One can never underestimate the power of dreams and the influence of human spirit. Today, spirit and dreams being put to the test under the watchful, discerning eyes of various NBA power brokers and decision makers, and always a good time to take a snapshot of the moment. It's also about diminutive players with huge, big-time dreams. The NBA Draft Combine rolling along. Coming up next.
I just never thought that I would make it to college, NBA.
That's the ultimate accomplishment for me.
My job is to come out and compete at a high level every night.
Being that underdog, that's what drove me and kept that chip on my shoulder.
Golden State is going to be up-tempo style, and I should be able to flourish there.
Durant, the two-hand jam. Blake Griffin explodes on Gasol. Westbrook throws it down with authority. 9/10 left. It's Lillard. He got the shot off. Lillard, good! Final seconds here. Across midcourt with Curry. A deep three. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! Old-fashioned way as Curry does it. 400 three-pointers in a season.
And welcome everyone inside the Quest Multi-Sport Gym here in Chicago, the epicenter of NBA evaluations and evaluators. It's been the case all week. It began on Monday. And a lot of moving parts here inside, and very important names. Legendary Larry Bird, the president of basketball ops with the Indiana Pacers, recently eliminated by the Raptors in the playoffs. Roy Williams on hand to watch some of his Tar Heels here. And Danny Ainge, along with his head coach Brad Stevens. The C's with 8 picks in the first 2 rounds coming up. Hello everybody, I'm Mark Jones. Coming up over the next couple of days, we'll have 8 hours of continuous coverage on ESPN2, also on the ESPN app, the scrimmages, the cogent numbers, all the important storylines heading up to the draft June 23rd in Brooklyn. Joined by Tom Penn, the former executive of the front office of the Portland Trail Blazers, Jay Williams, who began his career right here in Chicago, Fran Fraschilla, and Jay Bilas. Guys, the big storyline coming into the draft this year is the fact that the NCAA has altered its rule, maybe long overdue. A player can now withdraw from the NBA draft and maintain college eligibility within 10 days. That would be May 25th. They have until then to withdraw without hiring an agent. The previous deadline was prior to the early signing period. Players can now enter the draft multiple times and not lose any college eligibility. Jay, your take on this?
I think it's a great rule, and it's great for the players, because a player that's thinking about going pro and weighing the decision can come to this combine, can work out for individual teams, and get realistic quality information about how they're perceived and how they're judged, not necessarily who they are. Because there are guys that may be better than their evaluation. There are guys that aren't going to live up to their evaluation. But at least they find out where they stand. And they're not getting information from outside that they can't trust. And then you get here, too, and you realize, hey, there are a lot more good players than maybe you thought. Or maybe, hey, maybe you're better than you thought. So it's good information.
Yeah, nice to filter out a lot of that
and
stuff.
And a perfect example of what Jay's talking about is a guy like Isaiah Whitehead from Seton Hall, who's a sophomore, 6'4" point guard. He had his way with Villanova 3 times this year, and yet he doesn't have to stay in the draft. He can get an idea when he plays today, and if he goes back, they're going to be really good. If he doesn't go back, he's going to be really good.
It's a win-win.
I think the rule is phenomenal. A new rule that I would love to see implied is I'm so tired of players that come here and decide not to play. And it's look, if the presumptive 5 picks, maybe the NBA, the Player Association can protect those top 5 picks. I understand that. But if you're not a presumptive top 5 pick, then the NBA Association should make it mandatory. Player Association should make it mandatory you play and something like this. I don't think it's fair for some of the older players that have gone through the process of playing in games like this, and some of these other players don't play, and it's a level of mystery, and that's how they get drafted higher.
I disagree with you on that point, but more on that later. Back to this
we
one.
We have 4 hours to discuss.
We got time for all that. You said it's good for the players. It's really good for the teams, because what do teams want? We want immediate help. We want somebody that can help us win basketball games. The head coaches are here, eyes on the prize. Who's going to help them next year right away? And a player like that can get the feedback, and a team can say, stay. We don't want to pay you to sit on our bench if you're not ready. Go back to college, continue to learn something, continue to evolve, and come when you're ready.
That too sounding like a win-win for both sides potentially, and Andy Katz has a read on it as well. Andy?
Well, thank you, Mark. And to pick up on a couple of points that were just made by the desk, I've got a couple of examples in terms of players that NBA personnel that I've been talking to the last couple of days are waiting to see how they will perform behind me, and also maybe one who's already in the draft, where he could go in this draft. For example, Melo Trimble from Maryland. He's on the fence whether or not he's going to stay in this draft. So a number of different NBA personnel have told me he has to play well here to get that kind of advice to stay in the draft before May 25th. A great example of a player who's in the draft for sure, Daniel Hamilton of UConn. He could use this next couple of days to see if he could potentially move up into the first round according to a number of NBA personnel. And then there's a player like Caleb Swanigan, squarely on the fences. Head coach Matt Painter from Purdue is here watching him, and he's a player. What is his position? That's the question that a lot of these NBA personnel want to find out in watching him over the next 2 days. Malachi Richardson from Syracuse, a player that we're going to talk to here shortly. He is said to be on the fence, but I can tell you a number of different NBA personnel all believe he will stay in the NBA draft. Back to you, Mark.
Yeah, we'll learn a lot between day 1 and day 2 as we get started now. For just the second time in the last 8 years, they have brought back the 5-on-5 scrimmage portion of the contest here. And as we look at Team 1, Fran, tell me about who you're keeping an eye on here.
Well, it's definitely Patrick McCaw, the young man from UNLV, who's a 6'7" combo guard, only a sophomore. He's staying in the draft, and he's likely going to be somewhere early second, but there are teams talking about him in the first round. Versatile, can defend his tail off, really shoots it well, and also can play some point guard. Still needs some physical maturity. Teams saw him a lot this year, and they like what he does.
Averaged about 14 points a game, along with 4 assists. Meanwhile, Team 2, you picked out a little guy, a point guard.
Yeah, I thought Fran was going to give love to the little guys, too. We're both little guys. Yeah, I go with Kate Felder. You know, when you watch a guy like Isaiah Thomas play for the Boston Celtics, he's really taken on that role for the smaller player, able to get into those gaps. And Kate Felder, one of the most dynamic scorers we have in the college game today. You know, had a couple of games where he had 40-plus points. He can score against anybody, and he has one of the most also big-time step backs in the game, and I think he's going to be phenomenal in an environment like this.
Yeah, led all Division I players in assists this past season. As we are set to go, Team 1 going to be coached by Greg Buckner, an assistant coach with the Houston Rockets. Casey Hill and Andrea Stinson, the assistants. Meanwhile, Team 2 being coached by Darren Ehrman, an assistant coach with the New Orleans Pelicans. Otis Smith and Vin Baker on the sidelines as well. And we're going to jump this one again. Actually, no, we're going to give the ball to the white team. Going to play 2 20-minute halves.
Perfect example right there, Mark. Check Diallo, a young man that a lot of people thought would be a locked first-round pick a year ago. Still needs basketball experience. Jump ball right there. You're not allowed to catch it.
Yeah, only started 1 game for Kansas last year. Averaged 3 points and just 2.5 rebounds. A little pick and roll there with Cat Barber.
And Chuck Diallo knows how to do that. Use his length and his athleticism to get up and block and challenge shots. And that's really where his value is. He's got such a high motor. Really works hard. He just, as Fran says, just doesn't know how to play yet.
Nice sweeping move and hook shot by George Niang.
And I think that's big for a guy like George Niang. Sometimes you question his lateral quickness, and I think something that scouts are paying attention to. Can he create off the dribble? We know he can be a pick and pop player, but doing that is key for him today.
I think for George Niang,
Jumper 3 good by Carter Jr. out of Maryland. A whistle and a foul underneath. Score tied at 2. That was just inside that 3-point line. And there's a look at the rules. A couple of 20-minute halves. 1 20-second timeout in the first half, 2 in the second half. The clock will stop on a made basket during the last minute of the second half. And, of course, teams can advance the ball.
Can't go to the monitor?
No replay today, Fred.
They need to go to quarters.
Niang with a nice feed inside to Diallo, who couldn't knock it down. Back the other way comes the white team.
So, Jay, well, we're talking about George Niang, and on the offensive end, I don't know that that's even his issue. I think it's more defense. Like, is he going to be a liability on the defensive end, and who can he guard out there? Because, man, offensively, he's going to find a way to get a shot off and to get open, and he knows how to play. Wouldn't you say so?
Yeah, I would agree with you on that.
I think he's coming into the league at the perfect time, Jay, because of the way the game has changed. It's more of a speed and space
Draymond Green-like.
Yeah.
Not defensively, I'm just saying.
Nobody is Draymond Green.
I'm talking about his ability to space the
check that, Tom. Check that, Tom.
Give me the guy that 30 teams passed on, including the Golden State Warriors. First round.
You can say Draymond Green like.
Okay, I get it.
Like.
No, you're right.
Robert Carter at the foul line out of Maryland, one of 4 Terps participating here at the NBA pre-draft combine. Georgia Tech transfer, averaged a little over 12 points a game last year, just underway here, 3-2, the white team in the league.
Would you guys agree with me that the #1 question in the room right now with everybody is who can shoot the ball?
Yes.
Who can make shots from the perimeter? There you go.
There's a knockdown 3
with the way
by Niang.
With the way the game is changing, with what we're seeing in these playoffs, I believe that's the theme of this camp. Who can shoot it?
And the flip side of that is guards that can't shoot it become a liability unless they're great at something else.
You got it. Go under every screen.
Robert Carter had his shot blocked. One more look at Niang from outside.
Just a smart play to get to the three-point line, and even though he is not the fleetest of foot, he knows how to play, and he gets his shot off quickly. His shot preparation is really, really good. Offense is not George Niang's issue.
A whistle and a foul called. Looks like we've got an offensive foul, an illegal screen set.
I'll tell you something that's been impressive thus far. We all know Kay Felder can score, but defensively, he is doing a heck of a job on Cat Barber. Cat Barber, one of the top scorers in the ACC. But Kay Felder's ability to get low to the ground and get inside of somebody like that, the quickness laterally, that's imperative.
And Kay Felder is going to try to go to school on Isaiah Thomas, the Boston Celtics all-star guard, who really almost plays identically. 5'9", lefty, can score, pass, and defend.
Yeah, Felder had a 37-point game against then #1 Michigan State earlier this year. He gets the kick out, defers on the 3, and a shot clock violation. That 24-second shot clock, 6 seconds. A little bit of a difference sometimes, guys.
Well, that was a mistake by Kay Felder. He needed to shoot that ball when it came to him. When he gave it to Diallo, he basically gave him a hand grenade with the pin pulled out. Said, you take it, big fella. He had nothing to do.
I do like the unselfish decision. I mean, the ability to get somebody else involved. He's thinking the right way.
I think as a coach, you know he can score and make that shot because he did it over and over. And I think you cut him some slack there.
Oh, yeah.
He's trying to make sure that people know he's also a facilitator.
Okay, can you play devil's advocate to that a little bit, Fran? Because the size and the length of NBA players are a lot longer than that of college. So it's like that's something curious for me to see when I watch him play. Can he get his shot off with the length of some defenders?
And he's proven, Jay, at the college level he can, but obviously the next step is a big one.
Tough step-back jump shot right there, guys, by Cat Barber. I'm guessing he's got to be one of the quickest guys at this combine among the 64 players in attendance here today. And Felder with a little quick get back at the other end.
And to Tommy's point, we know he can score. And that time I think he said, you know, I'm going to show you I can score.
Benajay out of Syracuse with the steal. Quick advance to Niang and a nice alley-oop to Diallo for the bucket.
But Diallo has got a lot of tools. I mean, he's not ready yet, but as he develops, he can run and he's willing. I mean, he plays hard.
When you say run, willing, and great motor, you get the attention of decision makers. That's important for a big.
Whistle out of bounds. It'll come back the other way. Blue ball.
You know, Jay, he's been a small guy his whole life, so he's been able to manufacture shots like that. Perfect example right there. Not really a step back, but just he didn't need it right there. He just elevated up over.
And there's another illegal screen. This one against the blue team. Well, Kate Felder and Tyler Ulis, two of the smaller guys in attendance, measuring at 5'8" and a quarter.
I know you want to joke there.
I have nothing to say, Fred. I have nothing to say.
His stats are large, though, guys.
They are.
Big numbers this year. 24 points a game, 9.3 assists, 2 steals. And the league has shown that there is room for a player with that kind of skill.
There's a long history of diminutive players who've had stupendous NBA careers. The key, the consistent thing, is can they find space? Can they figure out where in the NBA game, in transition or on the half court, to get into their spaces where nobody can get to them because they're so quick? Even back to Muggsy Bogues, Earl Boykins, diminutive guys like Isaiah Thomas, like Felder, who can just fill it up, and actually they become a tremendous weapon.
And can you be disruptive on the defensive end? Because I think when you're that small, you have got to be disruptive. But if you're good enough, you are big enough. That's been proven over the years. It doesn't fit the suit, and it's difficult for a guy that small to make it. But I think Felder's got the tools to be able to play in the NBA.
But also for Felder, nobody should be able to stop him in a ball screen scenario.
Oh, nice block underneath by Diallo, sent it the other way. In transition, Benajay out of Syracuse.
Diallo has already made more plays in this game than he made all season long at Kansas.
He's getting more playing time than he has all season long at Kansas.
Well, the best thing that Jay mentioned already is the fact that he runs the floor, because in the modern NBA game, if you're a big guy that can't get up and down and change ends, you really don't have a shot. I'm curious, Jay Bilas, you saw Benajay a lot this year. He's an older guy. He's a transfer. There are teams that, and he's like your ideal, to me, early second-round pick. He does so many things to help you win.
Yeah, and he's ready to play right now. He can play a little bit of point. He can initiate. I don't think the point guard position is his strength in the NBA, especially when you're asking him to defend some of these super athletic NBA point guards. But there's no question, I think, on the offensive end, Michael Benajay can play in the NBA. It's just finding the right spot. And I think he's a bench player and a rotation player. I don't see him as being a starter, but he has the ability to play in the league.
Off the Carter miss. Nice block inside again by Diallo, already with a couple of blocks early in this game. Niang thought about it, then got ripped. And back comes Barber for the white team. Cat Barber from North Carolina State. For Mark Gottfried, and a nice trailer jump shot. Robert Carter out of Maryland.
What impressed me about Kay Felder right there is Barber tried to explode by him, and he moved his feet, stayed right in front of him.
Guys, you see the floor now, and you think about how size somewhat is being discounted in the NBA. Watching that Miami game last night against the Raptors, at one point there wasn't a player larger than 6'8" on the floor, because both teams have lost their traditional postmen in Whiteside and Valanciunas, and it looked like one of those 6'5" and under leagues for a minute there.
I mean, even take it to Golden State versus Portland with Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum, versus Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson. I mean, there's so much ball space in the game today. The ability to shoot the ball is key.
Blue team inbounding. Blue leading 12-8. Benajay with a nice dime inside to Niang for the layup.
George Niang, when he sets a screen, he goes from screener to scorer so fast, always looking for an opening. He can pick and pop. He can pick and roll to the basket. He's got a great sense for how to play.
Yeah, don't you think that's such an undervalued skill, the ability to recognize whether you pop or you roll or you go back into a rescreen?
Yeah, no, I mean, but if you're gonna pop, you got to be able to shoot it. He can do all those things. A lot of guys that set a ball screen, big guys, they're gonna have to roll because they can't shoot it. He can do all those things.
Nice baseline feed, and boy, Diallo, pump him up. His name's Check. He might be cashing one soon, guys. Check Diallo out of Kansas with a nice jam underneath.
I don't think he's going back to school.
16-10, the blue team with the lead. Seeing a lot of traditional NBA sets here that the coaches have put in. A lot of floppy action, early action. Outside jumper good by A.J. English. His first bucket. Fred, as a coach, how different is the sets that you see in college versus the NBA right now? Or has the line been blurred a lot?
More pick and roll than ever before. Actually, at the NBA level, you're seeing a little bit more motion. Teams like the Warriors and Spurs, but even in this setting, you want to see players watch out, pick up simple sets, execute them well, trying to get a little idea of their basketball IQ.
Finney Smith with the bucket there.
I love the fact that in the NBA, they're running more spread action than in college. There's more passes per possession in a 24-second clock NBA game right now than in a 30-second college game.
Yeah,
but interesting. It's amazing.
Interesting point.
Yeah, it's by necessity because of how good the defense is.
Turnaround jumper a little bit short that time by Swanigan. Blue team leading by 1. 13-18 to go here in the first half. We're going to take a short break. Meanwhile, guys, seeing who's got the skills to pay the bills. And we'll have Brick Weisbrod and Caron Butler on the other side of this.
for this one.
And Stephen was open. He comes back with a steal then.
Behind the back. What a pass! Steph Curry with a delivery to Draymond Green at full speed behind the back.
How about the audacity to go after a couple of turnovers behind the back, just past the half court with your offhand.
The heck with a simple play. Go for the spectacular.
Steph Curry says, I can handle the ball with my left.
It is an act of cruel beauty, devastating to opponents, divine to fans. Here is Steph Curry pulling up for three.
Curry takes a three for the win.
Just one play ignites the NBA app. Video from a variety of angles, plus updated impact on score, stats, and series. If the NBA app can do all that with just one play, think what it will do with the whole playoffs. Download the free NBA app, the official app of the NBA.
Lean In Together is about what we can all do
to help the women in our lives.
And men have an important role to play.
When men lean in, everyone wins.
I want to be a great player, but I want to be an even better father.
I lean in at home so Adrian can lean into her work.
We need to stand up for gender equality.
A little support for the women you work with can go a long way.
Let's all lean in together.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in. Are you?
That's why they don't get Lowry blocked by Lillard hard. And Dame talks to his bench trying to get the team going. They're trying to use any potential emotional spark. Yes. Get it going, Dame. A little bump from Lowry trying to get the foul. And Lillard swats it out of bounds.
One fan a chance to turn their 42 seconds into some cash, courtesy of
Playoffs are here, and NBA League Pass is your ticket to all the excitement. With NBA League Pass, you'll get every playoff game and every game of the NBA Finals. Now at a special playoffs price. Every game of the playoffs, every game of the finals, live and on demand on your tablet, phone, or computer. If you want all the action of the NBA playoffs, then you need NBA League Pass. To order now, go to NBA.com/League Pass.
I'm Russell Westbrook. You're watching NBA TV.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Quest Multi-Sport Gym in Chicago. Sighted the NBA Draft Combine as we work towards the June 23rd draft in Brooklyn, New York at Barclays Center. Well, one of the guys making an early impact here is the big fella out of Kansas, Cheick Diallo, with 5 points and a couple of blocks to go along with that. Very active at both ends of the floor. And so far, the early showing has been all good for Diallo.
Based on his freshman year at Kansas, if he's drafted in the late first round, there'll be a celebration in his house, but he will be a longtime D-League guy, at least for the next year or two, because he's still very underdeveloped.
Here's the beautiful thing about Cheick Diallo, though. You know, when he was in college, you felt like sometimes he wanted to do more than what he actually could do. If he were to be a rim runner, protect the rim, block shots, play defense, set screens, that can earn you a lot of money in this league.
Jay, here's the deal. He's 6'9", 218 pounds in a league where, yes, he may have to guard away from the basket, but he's not going to do any damage, in my opinion, Tommy, on the interior with that body frame.
No, I can tell you this. If the draft was this afternoon, he might go lottery right now with the people in the room. Because right now what you have is all the player personnel directors saying to the coaches that are next to him, no. It's not this.
Yes.
Because you're right. He needs work. He needs ripening. And you hit on it. He's only 6'9". And let's face it, in the NBA, you got to be bigger, longer, bigger. He is long, though, right?
7'4". 7'4".
Do you need to be that big in the NBA anymore?
Well, did you see
unless you're playing against a traditional low post player like you're going against San Antonio?
Yeah, it depends on your skill set. And but again, motor, energy, that's where everybody right now is saying that kid will affect the game off the bench.
And that's why you have a D-League team, honestly. You know, 20 teams now have D-League teams for guys like him that you can bring to veteran training camp and then start him in the D-League in November and get him playing 35 minutes a game.
And to me, the question is, the things you have to do to be a really good player haven't changed. The steps you have to take haven't changed from 30 years ago to 15 to now. The question is, where do you want to take those steps? Do you want to take them in college, or do you want to take them in, as you're saying, Fran, in the D League or on the end of somebody's bench? Where do you want to do your development? And that's the decision that Cheick Diallo's got to make right now. Does he want to develop under Bill Self at Kansas, which players have done over the years, or does he want to become a pro and get paid while he's developing?
That's a great point, Jay. You look at another African player, Bismack Biyombo, who came into the league very young and just now, after 4 years, starting to get his professional footing and make an impact with Toronto. Meanwhile, folks, the Thunder have pushed the Spurs to the brink, and tonight it's Game 6 of the Western Conference semifinals. Yes, sir. Big Ones begins with NBA Countdown, charged by Do It. 7:30 Eastern Time on ESPN, also streaming live on the Watch ESPN app and WatchESPN.com as Russell Westbrook came close to another triple-double in that previous game, a win for the Thunder in San Antonio. Meanwhile, there's been a change of the powers that be, and Bryan Colangelo in charge at Philadelphia. Andy?
All right, thank you, Mark. Now president of basketball operations with Philadelphia. You've had many titles across the league, and Phoenix and Toronto. Big rebuilding project with the Sixers. You're going to know a lot more on Tuesday night. What do you need the most out of this draft?
Well, we're actually calling it a building project at this point. A lot of the rebuilding has been done over the last 3 years, and there's been a lot of pain and suffering, a lot of losing, but we're really trying to turn the page, focus on winning basketball games, and Tuesday will be a big night for us. So we've got a chance to have 2 top 5 picks, depending on what happens with the Laker pick, and we also have 2 later first-round picks. So we've got a lot of tools, obviously, to start building this roster up. Cap space, a lot of resources there, and you know, whatever happens on Tuesday night could be a big turning point for us.
If you were to get 4 first-round picks, especially 2, as you mentioned, in the top 5, what are the chances that you would keep all 5 instead of maybe using them as chips to trade?
Well, you know, it'd be hard. We already have a good young group of developing players, and you can only have so many developing players. So we may be in play with a couple of those picks. Might do, you know, perhaps a draft and stash situation with the European prospect. You might look to defer to a future year. We'll have to assess all those things over the next 30 to 45 days as we find out, you know, just where we stand in terms of the value of our roster and also the value of those picks.
There's a big debate at the top of the draft, Ben Simmons and Brandon Ingram. Where do you stand in terms of those 2 players?
I like them both, and I think it would be great to end up with the first or second pick in the draft.
I mean, how clear-cut is it that those are the 2 top picks?
Well, I think you've got to keep your mind open to a lot of things when you're looking at that. Number one, it's early in this process. We're all awaiting medical information. We're not going to see anything here in Chicago because those players aren't participating. We have met with at least one of those players thus far, and the interview went very well, and we'll continue. There's other players, though, that will enter the conversation, as you should keep an open mind until it's draft day.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you, Andy.
Back to you, Mark.
Bryan Colangelo has a track record of success. The vestiges of his time in Toronto still there with DeMar DeRozan, an all-star, and Jonas Valanciunas, a very successful big man this year for Toronto. Meanwhile, the 76ers, simply put, folks, they won fewer games than nobody lost more games than they did this year. But with the abundance of picks and $50 million in cap room, a cap that is estimated to be within the range of $90 million next year, with his father, Jerry Colangelo, at the top of the food chain there in Philadelphia. He has a track record for success. Just look at USA Basketball and what he's done there.
Philadelphia will get there, just they want to get there quicker, and they've been going through the process for a long time, and now the process is over, and they've got to get some guards, and they got to get some older players in there. You can't. I think Brian's exactly right. You can't have too many younger players.
10 wins. I mean, guys, only 10 wins. They have so far to go.
Isn't Dario Saric like a European version of Ben Simmons?
That's a draft and stash that's still stashed, friend. He's still there.
Some shooters in that team.
He needs to come, but they need a guard, and a guy like Jamal Murray or Chris Dunn might fit perfectly with that group.
Yeah, they've got Isaiah Cannon right now, as well as Ish Smith, who made an immediate impact. They've won 3 out of the first 5 or so games that he joined the team, coming over from the Phoenix Suns, I believe.
If you had #1 pick, doesn't it make sense for them to take Brandon Ingram instead of Ben Simmons?
I think you take the best player available and you figure it out after.
They got to get a stud. They got to get a real bona fide franchise pillar. They must.
So that can shoot.
Meanwhile, back on the court, we've got a 36-34 ball game with about 3.5 minutes to go here in the first half, and the agility drills and the strength drills happening right now.
Our guy Robert Carter is lighting it up over here. Young man from Maryland, transfer from Georgia Tech. Didn't have a great junior season, but certainly playing well here today.
Every time he's caught it, he's been ready to shoot. That's been a big factor in knocking some shots down.
Timeout on the floor. A little flashback. John Wall coming off a knee procedure. He'll be raring and ready to go with his new head coach Scott Brooks next year. Back after this.
Philadelphia.
Dynamite dunk. Rejection. Milwaukee wins it. If you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball.
It is an act of aerial ferocity. Elevation meets emotion. It is the soar and the roar. Here is Russell Westbrook attacking the rim. Just one play ignites the NBA app. Video from a variety of angles, plus updated impact on score, stats, and series. If the NBA app can do all that with just one play, think what it will do with the whole playoffs. Download the free NBA app, the official app of the NBA.
You want to be on Inside Stuff?
Oh, yeah. Hey, Inside Stuff. What's up, Inside Stuff? He's scored on me a number of times, so he's not going to score on me today.
We're going to build a Timberwolves Sunday.
If I eat this, I'll be able to jump like him. Yeah, that's where my hops come from. All right, let's do it. If you whip, I'll whip. Now that's the Inside Stuff. Now that is the Inside Stuff.
Inside Stuff with Grant and Kristen, presented by Samsung. Saturdays on NBA TV.
Welcome back, everyone, to Chicago, the city of broad shoulders. A look at the Lincoln Park Zoo. And miles away here at Quest Multisport Gym, a look at some of the measurables and the standing vert jump. Demetrius Jackson leading the pack so far, 4.5 inches ahead of Malachi Richardson. There's a look at the max verticals.
It's like you, Jay Williams.
No way. Tyler Hill is at 38 inches there.
That's surprising for Wade Baldwin right there at 38 inches.
Demetrius Jackson with the 4th best max jump. Wow. Seen that during the course of the year. And back to the game action. Kyle Wilcher in the ball game. Wilcher out of Gonzaga. Kentucky transfer. .115 to go here in the first half.
What Patrick McCaw just did, taking that ball from Kay Felder, is what he did all season at UNLV, and that's why teams really like him. The youth, the size, the length.
It's really his best attribute, isn't it? His ability to defend.
What's that, Jay?
His best attribute is his ability to defend, wouldn't you say?
I think that he's a very good open shooter. But at 6'7", that certainly is why teams like him.
You know, disruptive defenders are so critically important. As much as we're talking about shooting and as much as we're talking about the ability to space the floor and how open it is, that just increases the need to guard the ball. Control your man one-on-one so you don't have to commit to the ball.
Right.
I mean, Cleveland's making 25 threes a game because LeBron and Kyrie get right into the heart of the defense and kick to the wide open shooters. So,
but are they getting into the defense off isolations, or are they getting into the defense more off ball screens? I mean, that's where you see guards able to turn that corner. Essentially, the big is the guy guarding the guard.
Remember this, outside of the foul line extended, you can't put any hands on them, as you know, right? So if you can commit one guy to keeping the ball in front of them, that changes your entire defensive scheme.
Right.
And ball screen situations, another story. But still, the good defenders on the ball, you notice, they keep guys from getting to the screen.
Well, that's why I find it funny with all these agility drills, especially the ones that define lateral quickness, because look, you can show me great lateral quickness over here, but you have to show me a willingness to get over a ball screen and actually follow a game plan. That takes heart.
You know, guys, you speak to NBA coaches, and they'll tell you there aren't an abundance of on-the-ball defenders. I remember speaking with a couple of coaches this year, and it took them a while to come up with even 5 or 6 guys, Tony Allen types, that can really keep their man in front of the opponent.
Well, to Jay Will's point, do you think any team is looking at this lateral quickness deal here thinking this doesn't really translate as much to, do you have the courage to fight through a screen set by
DeMarcus Cousins?
Or, you know what I mean? That's where it comes down to, too. This stuff over here is more dog and pony show for me as a coach.
It's also help and recover. Because of all these reasons, you can get a man in the middle of the lane who can help stunt, recover, get back. Draymond Green, the best at it. At his size and his knack and his ability and willingness, he can cover multiple positions and muck up that offensive scheme.
A whistle and a foul underneath. Back to the game action. Marcus Lee out of Kentucky, one of several Wildcat players in attendance here today. Calipari expecting him perhaps to stay in the draft once teams see how dynamic he is. Well, folks, this week on Sunday Night Baseball, it's a National League showdown in Los Angeles. Cardinals taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers, and Yasiel Puig in the series finale. Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell, 8 Eastern on ESPN. Also streaming live on the Watch ESPN app and WatchESPN.com as players continue to go through the agility drills. Isaiah Cousins a moment ago out of Oklahoma hit a big shot this year against LSU to win a ball game.
He's a self-made player. Got better every year under Lon Kruger, as did his backcourt mate Buddy Hield, and has a chance to get drafted, but you'll see him in the D-League or making good money overseas at the worst.
Yeah, what about Buddy Hield skipping out on us here, guys, for something as plain as graduation ceremony, huh?
Graduation is tomorrow night.
How dare he? How dare he? Come on, how dare he? Got to get his priorities straight.
You know, there's a character issue with him. He should have stuck around for the interviews.
1 second to go, and that'll cap off the end of the first half. The white team leading by 1.
Do we go to the coach interview now?
Yes. Doc Rivers, Daryl Morey, and Jason Kidd. Brain Trust on hand.
20 years ago, I was just a little girl.
I didn't know I'd average 20 points. Didn't know I'd have eyes in the back of my head.
I didn't know I would grow to be 6'9".
I didn't know I'd become an all-star.
Didn't know I'd be a nightmare on the wing.
But what I did know is if I could do what they did, I could be a pro. Watch me work.
Lean In Together is about what we can all do
to help the women in our lives.
And men have an important role to play.
When men lean in, everyone wins.
I want to be a great player, but I want to be an even better father.
I lean in at home so Adrian can lean into her work.
We need to stand up for gender equality.
A little support for the women you work with can go a long way.
Let's all lean in together.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in. Are you?
It is an act of locomotive focus, power with a purpose, fueled by a one-track mind. Here is LeBron James driving to the basket.
LeBron putting the speed on.
Just one play ignites the NBA app. Video from a variety of angles, plus updated impact on score, stats, and series.
Beautiful move by James.
If the NBA app can do all that with just one play, think what it will do with the whole playoffs. Download the free NBA app, the official app of the NBA.
They don't give you a championship. You take a championship. He showed up in a huge way.
You're not going to stop those guys. You just have to do all you can to try to contain them.
This is playoff basketball.
Eyes don't lie. These guys never panic.
Imposing his will.
You get deep in the playoffs, you can never have enough scoring.
There's only one way to play, and that's to win.
This is playoff basketball. Guys putting it all on the line. They won a championship.
And welcome back, everyone, to Chicago, site of day one of the NBA Draft Combine from the Quest Multi-Sport Gym. And don't forget, join us tomorrow from Chicago. One more time, day two, the 2016 NBA Draft Combine. 4 more hours of games and drills of the 63 prospective players. Tomorrow, 3 Eastern on ESPN2, also streaming live on Watch ESPN and the Watch ESPN app. All this leading up to the June 23rd draft at Barclays Center in Brooklyn. Felder out top for the blue team, which trail now by 6. And Niang with the layup.
Then we talk all we want about Niang, lacks athleticism and lift and all that stuff. He knows how to play. He winds up getting open, finding ways to get his shot off. He's so skilled. He just has a great feel for the game.
You know, I hope he makes it in the league because we've watched him and such a great player. But man, would he make a ton of money in Europe? I know that's not where he wants to end up, but he would be an absolute star over there because of all his versatility.
Boy, English with a nice floater right there. He showed a nice range on his three-point shot a moment ago, and now the floater.
Well, we're going to talk a lot about specialists and stoppers and, you know, spot-up shooters. If you can get a scorer who can score that ball. Have you seen these scores out west lately? You know, 118, 118, 123, 109. You need people to put it in the bucket, right, Karan?
Definitely. You know, even with all the speed and agility stuff, you know, some guys may not have numbers that jump out at you, but if you can put the ball in the hole, that's a skill set in its own right there.
Yeah, scoring up again this year in the NBA. There were about 2/3 of the teams, maybe even a little bit more, that averaged 100 or more points.
Yeah, a lot more fun.
One more look at the strength and agility drills. Isaiah Cousins once again out of Oklahoma.
Karan, speaking of scoring, how much of a skill is it to create your own shot?
I mean, it's a tough, you know, it's a tough thing to do, and you got to be able to, you know, develop airspace and, you know, be extremely crafty because guys are longer and, you know, really good defenders, and they know how to, you know, use their strength and athleticism. So you got to be able to get airspace and know how to play off players, particularly the guard play.
That's Isaiah Cousins on the right.
Well, a guy, Mark Jones, we're watching do that right now in the playoffs is C.J. McCollum.
Yes.
You know, I know their season ended last night, but talk about a guy that can create space.
I mean, talking about coming into your own and, you know, being a guy that averaged, I think, 5 to 6 points last season and just didn't make the jump to, you know, be in the 20s. And, you know, he looked like he got superstar written all over him, and you can appreciate his one-on-one game and just appreciate, you know, the way that he worked himself up to that process of being, you know, sometimes even the first option in some situations for that team. So it's good to see that.
Another small school guy out of Lehigh.
What you hear from good college players that transition to the NBA, they talk about the amount of energy it takes to try to go score the ball. Just to go take 10 shots, let alone make, or go take 20 shots, let alone make. You got to be gifted to do that, and particularly when you get to this level of athleticism and size in the NBA. Big step up.
Cross-court pass, Felder. Nice look inside. Boy, guys, I'm a little. I'm not. I didn't see a lot of that from Chuck Diallo this year, Fran. You had him more than I did. Jay, you too. There's some offensive skills there.
He's got tools, and he was playing in a system where there were a lot of older big guys, and you know, he wasn't able to show what he's capable of doing. I think he'll do that next year, the year after. But I don't know there'll be a next year at Kansas for Chuck Diallo, especially the way he's playing here.
So the headline tomorrow in Lawrence, Kansas is going to read, "Self holds back Diallo from prospering."
Yeah. They may think that. That's just not true.
Wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see him tomorrow.
Meanwhile, look at Tyler Ulis out of Kentucky, one of 4 Wildcat players here. The vertical jump, the shuttle drill, the agility drill. There might not have been a better leader this year, guys, in the true sense of the word, at that position, better than this guy.
You know, we compare Kay Felder to Isaiah Thomas. Tyler Ulis has a little bit of Earl Boykins in his game. Earl was more of a scorer, I think, but this guy, as Jay saw many times this year doing Kentucky, he might have been the best point guard in college basketball in terms of running his team. Doesn't necessarily translate, but his game will translate, I think.
Yeah, I thought he was, if not the best team leader and floor leader in college basketball. He was right there with anybody. I still felt like the best point guard was Chris Dunn of Providence.
Yes.
And yeah, look, I think he's got the body and the length and the agility. He can defend. He can do all the things, and he does it with greater size and length than Tyler Ulis does. He's not quite the leader that Ulis is, but I think he projects as a better NBA player long term.
Karan, when you see small guys in the league, and Isaiah Thomas is a perfect example of that this year with Boston, what do they have to do to overcome, you know, the diminutive stature?
You got to be a master of angles. You got to know, you got to be just a gym rat in general, because you got to watch a lot of film and you got to be extremely crafty. And what you see from Isaiah Thomas and you see from Felder, as I'm watching here, going against, you know, Cat Barber, you know, he's doing a great job of, you know, using angles, you know, beating them to spots. And, you know, also, you know, on the opposing end, he's doing a great job of running the team. You can see why he was, you know, one of the top assist makers in the game. And you can see why he's so crafty in scoring and using that left hand.
Nice pass up top, and Diallo there again to finish it off from the feed from Hamilton.
How do those small guys, what do they have to do defensively to hold their own?
I think they got to compete at a extraordinary level, you know, and night in and night out, because their size will always be in question. I played with guys like Earl Boykins and obviously, you know, Isaiah Thomas, and playing with a guy like Damon Stoudemire. Those guys was the ultimate competitors. You know, they always left it out there on the court, you know, defensively, and, you know, they was going to prove to you, point of emphasis, that size is not the issue.
Cat Barber, meanwhile, out of North Carolina State with a jump shot.
Good hustle.
Steal, and the layup.
See, even though he made that shot right there, I can appreciate the effort from the little fella, you know, going down there and contesting.
Patrick McCaw with the layup.
How many nights have you stuck your hand up on a guy that's shooting it and it goes in, even though you thought you guarded him, right?
Yeah. You know, good defense, better offense. You tip your hat off to him and you go the other way.
On the drive, whistle and a foul called as Nigel Hayes goes to the cup. Well, the Thunder have pushed the Spurs to the brink of elimination. Tonight is Game 6 of the Western Conference semifinals. Our coverage starts with NBA Countdown, charged by Dew at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN. Also streaming live on Watch ESPN and the ESPN app. Karan, your thoughts on Game 6?
It'll be interesting. I expect OKC to, you know, close them out tonight. And, you know, I think they expect the same thing. If they don't, I think the momentum swings back to, you know, San Antonio favor, and you do not want that. And, you know, we'll see what happens. But knowing the mentality of those guys, being in that locker room before, I look forward to OKC finishing them out tonight.
Guess who's favored? Guess who Vegas thinks is going to win?
San Antonio.
By
1.5.
1.5. 2.
1.5. No. Spurs favored in Oklahoma City.
Wow.
It's going to be tough for Oklahoma City to close them out.
Boy, it is amazing, though, that after winning 67 games, that San Antonio is facing elimination on the road.
Yep.
It's remarkable, I think, what the position Oklahoma City's in. How about Billy Donovan leaving Florida and taking that job and on the brink of putting San Antonio out of the playoffs altogether?
Yeah, there was an adjustment period, of course, for him early, but not much. He's got his team in a great spot. A whistle and a foul called.
I always say, talking to my NBA friends, the difference between the NBA and college is the difference between Spanish and Portuguese. They sound alike, but they're two different languages, you know, and Billy's done a really good job. They struggled, as you know, Mark Jones, in the fourth quarter of a lot of games this year, but they seem to be really playing well at the end of games now.
Yeah, they figured it out, and Russell Westbrook, a big part of their success down the stretch. That's Josh Hart in the strength and agility drills.
He's got the NCAA title. He's a tremendous college player, and he's got the opportunity to show what he can do this year. If he doesn't get a feel that he's going to be a first-round pick, he goes back and becomes one of the best college players next year.
Definitely, and that's the beauty of this process. You know, coming to the combine and having some time, 2 weeks time to figure out if you really want to stay in this mix and be drafted and go ahead with this process, or go back to college and you get to gauge where you at and know the things that you need to work on to be better.
Kyle Wiltjer missing that three-point attempt a moment ago. Guys, it's interesting to look out on the court, see Marcus Lee, and we've talked about and seen Tyler Ulis and Kyle Wiltjer, a guy that began his collegiate career at Kentucky, and now, after transferring and playing at Gonzaga, what do you make of where he fits in down the road? He hasn't stood out yet. And there's still time.
I got a chance to see him in the West Coast Conference Finals. He's a really good offensive player, Mark. The major concern that everybody has is his lack of lateral quickness. He really struggles to keep anybody in front of him. But offensively, he can really, really shoot the ball. As good as there was in college this year from deep.
Meanwhile, on the right side of the screen, the agility drill. That's Troy Williams.
Seen a couple of shot clock violations, during this scrimmage process. That time may be getting to some of the guys. You got to keep that mental note in your head.
You play enough 24-second clock basketball in your career, you even have to look at the clock sometimes. You kind of know.
Now you kind of got like a really good feel, knowing that the point guard usually get the ball up at the 17 second with it on the clock and it's still running, and then by the time you get your first set, review your first option, that it's probably about 8 seconds left on the clock, so you get a good feel of it. Only time you really pay attention to the shot clock is when the game is on the line and you got to know the seconds.
Boy, that was the move of the game so far by Barber.
That was extremely
a little get back three by Benedict.
You think about how prolific Cat Barber was this year. Offensively, Cat Barber really had a great year in the ACC, but I like the fact that teams are watching him and seeing if he could be one of those second-round guys who come off the bench and can spark them.
Here's Payton with the mid-range jump shot, coming up short.
And that's the area where Gary Payton struggles a little bit. He's not a great shooter, but he is an outstanding defender. Good guard rebounder.
Yeah, if he defends anything like Pops, he's got a shot. Timeout on the floor. The blue team trailing by 9. And Cat Barber out of North Carolina State. Cat, he's about as quick as one. Nice handles.
Playoffs are here, and NBA League Pass is your ticket to all the excitement. With NBA League Pass, you'll get every playoff game and every game of the NBA Finals. Now at a special playoffs price.
Oh, what a play!
Every game of the playoffs, every game of the finals, live and on demand on your tablet, phone, or computer. If you want all the action of the NBA playoffs, then you need NBA League Pass. To order now, go to NBA.com/League Pass.
103-101 Philadelphia. Dynamite dunk. Injection. Milwaukee wins it. If you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball.
You want to be on Inside Stuff?
Oh yeah, hey Inside Stuff.
What's up, Inside Stuff? He's scored on me a number of times, so he's not going to score on me today.
We're going to build a Timberwolves Sunday.
If I eat this, I'll be able to jump like him.
Yeah, that's where my hops come from.
All right, let's do it. If you whip, I whip. Now that's the inside stuff. Now that is the inside stuff.
Inside Stuff with Grant and Kristen, presented by Samsung. Saturdays on NBA TV.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to 24 Seconds with me, Kyrie Irving. First time I dunked, I was 16 years old. I was a sophomore in high school, and I haven't dunked since.
Throw it down, Kyrie Irving.
Next step, my bed. I am definitely a morning person. I love getting up in the morning and getting my day started and getting things done before everyone else wakes up. That's a wrap.
And welcome back, everyone, to Chicago and the side of the 2016 NBA Draft Combine. And Sunday Night Baseball has a National League showdown for you in Los Angeles. Cardinals taking on Yasiel Puig and the LA Dodgers. Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell, 8 Eastern on ESPN, streaming live on Watch ESPN, and also the ESPN app. And, you know, funny how sometimes in life, Andy, guys come full circle. Tibbs, back where he started, right?
Yes, that's right. In fact, that was a great picture. I don't know if you guys saw it on the internet of Tom Thibodeau. You had sort of that almost like, what was his name, Slater from, I can't even remember the show, but it was very 80s. Do you remember the picture I'm talking about?
The mullet, yeah. There's proof that I actually had hair at one point.
Well, the mullet's big in Minnesota, certainly in the hockey world. All right, so Minnesota has a great chance to do well, lottery. What do you guys need to get out of this NBA draft when you've got some of the best young talent in the NBA on your roster?
Yeah, we're excited. I think we're in a great position. There's going to be a lot of options. Obviously, we want to address our shooting and our defense. So once we know exactly where our pick is, we'll look at all the options and all the possibilities.
As you surveyed the landscape of potential job openings when you were working for us, what enticed you so much about Minnesota?
Well, I think it has the best young talent in the league. There's a lot of room to grow. There's great flexibility, having a high draft pick, having cap space, and to build around Karl Anthony Towns, Andrew Wiggins, Zach LaVine, Ricky Rubio, Gorgui Dieng, Shabazz, Mohammed. We feel like there's a lot of pieces for us. Nemanja Bjelica, so we're looking forward to it. There's a lot of work to be done, and it'll be a great challenge for us.
Well, good luck, obviously, on Tuesday. And it was Saved by the Bell. That's the one. For some reason I couldn't think of that. That was sort of what he looked like with that mullet back in the 80s or 90s. I can't remember. Back to you, Mark.
All right, Andy. Here's a look at the team snapshot. Karl Anthony Towns, Wiggins, LaVine, the slam dunk champion, Rubio, and they right now have the 5th highest odds of getting the #1 pick.
Yeah, he should be smiling the way he was ear to ear. Look at that core 4 in talent. That's what you want. When you go through the valley like they have, you want franchise pillars. And guys, they have them in Wiggins, Anthony Towns. They could end up in the top 5 again. And then you've got all that flexibility to trade young assets, use that cap space. And you look at Tibbs, he'll get in there and get them organized and playing the right way. It's bright lights up there in the north.
I got to teach Tibbs how to say those international names. Nemanja Bjelica. But, where they're picking, Jonesy, think about it. You got Jamal Murray and Buddy Hield staring him in the face at maybe #5. We don't know until Tuesday night, but he talked about outside shooting. Buddy Hield would be a terrific fit for that group. Really space the floor for Karl Anthony Towns inside.
And a guy like Ricky Rubio is one of the best passers in transition. He'll find you now.
Tom Thibodeau needs shooting, and he needs a heated garage.
Well, they got a lot of walkways in Minneapolis. You don't have to go outside in the winter, Jake.
I don't know about that.
Not much. 6-point ball game back on the court. Under 5 minutes to go here in the game.
I think Tom can afford that heated garage.
Fran, you bring up this. If English fires a deep 3, an interesting point. Buddy Hield versus a Jamal Murray. And guys, when you look at a 4-year player like Buddy Hield, foul committed by Wiltshire. Do you take a one and done, or do you take a 4-year guy who you can see what he's doing, and he's been very prolific at that level?
That's the biggest challenge, Tom Penn, right? Do you take production versus projection at that spot?
And with that, we'll contemplate it and come back on the other side.
It is an act of aerial ferocity. Elevation meets emotion. It is the soar and the roar. Here is Russell Westbrook attacking the rim. Just one play ignites the NBA app. Video from a variety of angles, plus updated impact on score, stats, and series. If the NBA app can do all that with just one play, think what it will do with the whole playoffs. Download the free NBA app, the official app of the NBA.
Lean In Together is about what we can all do
to help the women in our lives.
And men have an important role to play.
When men lean in, everyone wins.
I want to be a great player, but I want to be an even better father.
I lean in at home so Adrian can lean into her work.
We need to stand up for gender equality.
A little support for the women you work with can go a long way.
Let's all lean in together.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in. Are you?
20 years ago, I was just a little girl.
I didn't know I'd average 20 points.
Didn't know I'd have eyes in the back of my head.
I didn't know I would grow to be 6'9".
I didn't know I'd become an all-star.
Didn't know I'd be a nightmare on the wing.
But what I did know is if I could do what they did, I could be a pro. Watch me work.
Back inside the Quest Multi-Sport Gym here in Chicago for the NBA Draft Combine. The skills drills, the agility drills going on 5-on-5 on the main court, and Andy Katz standing by with Malachi Richardson. Andy?
All right, thank you, Mark. So certainly Malachi was one of the key members of Syracuse's surprising run to the Final Four. He's here at the NBA Draft Combine, not participating, though, in the 5-on-5. Why is that?
Just tweaking my back a little bit when I was up at school, and we just thought it would be best if I didn't play.
So you're one of the players that has not signed with an agent yet, essentially on the fence. Where do you stand on your decision?
Everything's still 50-50. We're just trying to weigh the best options, just make the best choice.
A lot of these people I've talked to here in this gym believe that you will stay in the NBA draft because you are someone who could be in the first round at some point. What will be the deciding factor for you?
It'll come down to my family, whether or not it's a great decision for myself, and just make the best thing possible.
How ready are you to be in the NBA?
I think I'm ready, but we just want to make the best decision possible.
All right, so stay here because we got a little bit of a video package breaking down your game that Fran Fraschilla is going to sort of put forth for us, and I want you to react after that. Fran?
I'll take it away, Andy Katz. Yes, what you love about this kid is he's fundamentally sound. He really played well down the stretch of the season. His footwork is really, really good. I want you to watch this little shake and bake move right here, getting by Pinson from North Carolina. He's not an explosive NBA athlete at the two-guard spot, but this is what I really like. Watch the craftiness here. Watch this Euro step. Now let's run that back, okay? And I want you to watch how he takes the ball right to Justin Jackson's body, steps away, protects the ball, and finishes. He shot 40% from three in the ACC. He's got a good, well-rounded two-guard game for the league with a lot of potential.
All right, so Fran Fraschilla just broke down your game. How would you sort of judge that assessment of your game?
He did a great job. Every word was true. I just want to make the best opportunity and take the best of advantage of it.
All right, so keep in mind, Fran Fraschilla is not drafting here, okay? What do you have to improve on, though, to be that effective the way you were in that game against North Carolina in the NBA?
I just got to keep getting better, being a little bit more consistent with everything, and I think everything will work out for itself.
All right, a lot of people think you're going to stay in the draft. We'll have to wait and see. Back to you guys.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. Richardson
So, friend, you might have swayed him a little bit there, man.
Let me tell you something. You know that back issue he has? If he was playing Duke tomorrow night, he'd be playing, okay? Someone's obviously told him that he's going, and I think he is, going in the back part of the first round, and basically because of his long-term potential. And a kid like that, top end, you know, he's going to end up on a playoff team, much like Rashad Vaughn did a year ago for UNLV. Doesn't have to play right away, but a playoff team has got a kid who's going to be a good, potentially good player that they might not have been able to draft if he stayed for 2 more years.
You call this a job interview. Every job interview I've ever been to, you got to go eyeball to eyeball with your employer and talk to them and express yourself. And yeah, there's specialty skills here, but you're still hiring somebody to come into your culture. So how do you feel about that kid? Do you like that kid? When you sit there and talk to him, you just saw him express his personality in the media sense, right? But he had to sit across the table from Larry Bird, from Jerry West, from key guys who've been through this a lot. And you get to learn who these people are in this setting. So, yeah.
So what went on yesterday? Excuse me, Jay. What went on yesterday with the interviews?
Yeah, it's just you coordinate, you get a priority of who you want to talk to, and you sit at a table for a limited amount of time with your executive team. We used to have our sports psychologists take the time to talk to the kids because we wanted to get an evaluation of how they were going to fit. Those that we were really interested in, we're going to talk to on a visit when they come for their specific workout. But in this setting, you get a chance to cast the net a little wider and talk to more kids. I kind of picture speed dating when I think of the whole interview process.
MJ, I'll tell you something. I was blown away. I had a conversation with the Golden State Warriors, and the GM straight up asked me, hey, I've heard you partied a couple of times in college. I heard you partied a couple of times. I heard the times you went out on the road, before games. Is this true? Yeah. And I didn't know how do you can't lie about that, right?
Know the answers.
They know the answer before they ask you, so that's a question of your character. Yeah. And I was like, well, yes, I did. We're like, well, do you plan to do more stuff like that on the next level? I mean, you had to answer those real type questions.
Well, meanwhile, guys, 1:32 to go as this game winds down. And while we've been away, Robert Carter out of Maryland has put together a pretty impressive stat line. Came up with the steal there, and he's approaching 20 points if he doesn't have it already.
Well, in the modern NBA with mobile bigs, a guy that can play away from the basket and score it like he can. You know, I've got him as a second-round pick right now. But again, look at the playoffs and look at how many guys are performing that are second-round picks.
Patrick McCaw with the layup there.
And one last thing about Malachi Richardson. One of the things I really love about him from a pure basketball perspective, he doesn't have a lot of wasted movement. He catches the ball, triple threat, jabs you, hands down, he'll shoot it. Get the ball, quick move to the basket. And that's something that's imperative when you play with a 24-second shot clock. Those quick, sharp moves.
Here's English out top as we are now under a minute to go. Carter backing his man down. 5 on the shot clock.
Shoot that.
They got to get to work with it.
Yeah.
And bailed out on a foul call with 1 second to go on the shot clock. Looks like the foul is going to go against Diallo. Blossomgame on the drive out of Clemson. Blossomgame averaged almost 19 a game and 7 rebounds. The only ACC player to average 18 a game and shoot over 50% this year. Another guy that hasn't signed with an agent yet.
Brad Brownell, is hoping he went over 15 today.
Well, Blossomgame's really come a long way in his career at Clemson. He's an outstanding athlete, but you remember he had that compound fracture in his leg and really worked hard to overcome that and was one of the best players in the ACC this year. And I think after KJ McDaniels came out of Clemson, I think a lot of people have compared the two. He's not quite the same player, but I think he's got a nice future ahead of him. I'll be interested to see whether he decides to stay or go.
Yeah, it's a great point, Jay, because he's really the age of a senior. And yet, you know, he's kind of a tweener. Now, tweeners are fitting into the league, but to me, I think you got him pegged just right where you have him on your board.
Blossomgame out of Clemson, as we mentioned, an improved three-point shooter this year. Shot 45% on his threes and got it done on the interior as well.
He was most effective for Clemson at the 4 spot because he's a hard matchup in college at the 4. going by bigger guys, and played a lot at the top of the key. They ran their offense through him out at the top of the key. He did a really good job of that. But you see,
he's going to be a 3.
Pounds.
He's going to be a 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, skill-wise at the 3 is going to be a challenge for him because he's not a great ball handler or passer. And he's really worked on his shot, but he's not a natural. But he's such a terrific athlete and a hard worker. He can certainly find his way in the league. I don't know that I see him necessarily as a first-round draft pick. I think he's a second-round pick, but he can certainly make a team and be an asset.
Keep in mind that 2 of the players that participated in the 5-on-5 a season ago were drafted in the first round. Terry Rozier out of Louisville went to the Celtics, and Larry Nance Jr. went to the Lakers as Peyton gets the slam to go. It's a 6-point game, and guys are going to learn a little situational NBA-style basketball here, fellas. With 36.4 to go, but looking at the stat sheet here, Robert Carter at last look 21 points, AJ English with 15, Cat Barber with 13 points to go along with 6 assists, and Niang with 20 for the blue team leading the way. Diallo with 14 and at least 3 blocks. David, start with you as we start to wrap things up. Your impressions of who made an impact here.
Well, Diallo made an impact on me. His ability to run the floor. He did the simple things. You know, he's not got a polished offensive game. He's still raw. But his ability to run the floor, he played hard on every possession. He was challenging people around the basket. He rebounded and finished plays. And with that, you know, he's very young in basketball, and I think he's got a great future ahead of him, and he's going to continue to get better. But I think he showed his best stuff in this one, and just played really, really hard and was impactful.
Realistically, right now, is Bill Self out recruiting to replace him?
Oh yeah, no, he's not going back. Okay, he's not going back. We were at KU last week, and I don't think there's any indication that he'll go back. And you know, to Jay's point, I mean, there's a lot to like because of the athleticism. Remember, this guy was the MVP of the McDonald's game and MVP of the Nike Hoop Summit a couple years ago. So there's a lot to work with there, but we're still talking about a raw big man with still probably going to spend time in the D-League and need to improve.
Check Diallo mentioned 14 points, and he made his presence known early and often here.
Well, he's not playing outside himself, MJ. He's running the court. He's blocking shots. He has that great length. And look, you like his athleticism and you like his hunger as well. I mean, he plays defense. He's coming over from the weak side and he's finishing strong at the rim.
Yeah, listen, he just made 2 baskets off of dishes from big guys. I mean, from guards that he didn't have to do anything. So we're not talking about a polished offensive guy right now.
But he did knock down an open jumper. He's made some plays offensively. He's got ability. But we've mentioned, I think he's raw and he's got a lot to work on. But all the tools are there for him to be really, really good.
18 points in the ball game on 7 of 10 shooting.
Somebody else who was impressive today, I really like Kay Felder. I mean, he's really stood out. And we all know he can score the basketball, but he's shown the ability to make plays. But more importantly, I mean, his on-ball pressure, you know, he's picking up full court each and every possession. That's disruptive pressure. I think that's critical in the next level.
You know, Greg Campy told me, his coach at Oakland told me last week that keep in mind that every single team he played against in the last couple of years game plan for stopping him, and he has a great ability to know when to get his own shot and also when to feed his teammates. And he described him as a Barry Sanders type. He said he's as fast side to side as he is, you know, north-south. So he didn't hurt himself, but teams knew how good this kid was coming into this.
There's Felder up court in a rush, takes it all the way to the cup, and he draws the foul. The blue team with an opportunity after the offensive foul at the other end. 25.4 to go. Felder going to the free throw line. A very prolific and efficient free throw shooter during the course of the season for Oakland. Felder's got 7 points and 4 assists.
Yeah, he's a Detroit kid too. He's got that toughness. He won a city title.
Also impressive today, George Niang. George Niang played really well, shot the ball extremely well. And, you know, we talk about one of the most undervalued things is a guy who can pick and pop, who can extend the defense with his shot, but also understands when to roll, when to come back for a rescreen. He probably has one of the highest basketball IQs in this combine.
Yeah, 4-point ball game comes easy to him. He just gets it.
4-point game, a little full court press, and they almost turn it over.
Did not like that press offense right there.
That's one of the things they didn't put in, I'm guessing. Didn't have time to work on that. It's interesting, speaking with Greg Bruckner, said they put in limited sets, just the basic offensive stuff, 3 half-court plays. Each of the 4 teams pretty much has the same stuff. Kind of just running different options off of them. But 4-point game, and got a jump ball here between Carter and Diallo.
You know, Tommy, the guy that Georges Niang reminds me of, and we said it during the season, is it's kind of like Boris Diaw.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, I know he's not as big, but certainly Boris had a great career, but he's got that kind of fit in with everybody game.
And Boris Diaw is a magician with that ball as a playmaker, and he's one of the most cerebral.
Wilcher knocks down a 3, guys. We got a 1-point game. And another trap on the inbound pass. And a foul called, it looks like.
That wasn't a foul in the San Antonio game the other night.
We don't have a last 2-minute report in this, do we?
They missed 5 fouls and 4 violations on 1 play.
How about that tip to a 3? That was pretty impressive.
Meanwhile, looks like English is going to go to the free throw line. A.J. English out of Iona. His dad played a couple years in the league. Still a 1-possession game.
One of the many Virginia Union players that played in the NBA. Charles Oakley,
yep.
Ben Wallace.
Back then it was always Virginia Union University, right? Or I'm thinking of
Virginia
Hampton
Union.
Institute, Hampton University.
Yeah.
My bad.
In the CIAA.
Yes. 3-point game.
Young man had 46 this year on the Fairfield Stags.
Felder looking to get a little space. Wilcher. Oh yeah, run him off the 3-point line. Takes the 2 with time remaining. 4.2. They need a quick foul.
That looked like Isaiah Thomas right there.
Did. Great split on that ball screen.
Yep. And Benajay is going to go to the free throw line off the quick foul with 3.3 to go. You know, Danny Ainge was telling me a little bit earlier here that the good thing about the scrimmaging is, more importantly, they get to see guys compete. You know, bottom line, they watch how they interact with their teammates. They watch how they run out of huddles, how they run 2 huddles, but just basically the competition level when it comes down to games. And it's really an irreplaceable thing. Benajay at the, Blossom game at the foul line, makes the first.
What are the overtime rules? I wasn't going to be the one to ask, Tom.
It doesn't go beyond 4 hours. That's what the overtime rule is.
Can you advance the ball here on a timeout?
They do have advance. But you got to get the rebound first. Carter knifes in there. Niang and Wilcher failed to block out. And Carter out of Maryland sneaks in for the board.
You know, when he transferred to Maryland, his goal was to be a one-and-done guy, sit out the year. He's gotten himself into great shape. His body fat is way down. And again, on a team with 4 potential NBA prospects, didn't have a great season, but this helps him today.
Missed the first free throw. So now it's still going to be a 1-possession game, and blue team has time to get up court. Cliff Warren, the assistant coach for the Terps, tells me he's in the gym more than anybody else on that team. Got to get off a quick 3. Ooh. Dangerously close. And Carter leading the way for the white team as they win it 96-93, the first of 2. One more on deck, folks. Had a lot of jams in that first one. More coming up on the other side.
The NBA playoffs are here, and NBA League Pass is your ticket to all the excitement. With NBA League Pass, you'll get every playoff game and every game of the NBA Finals. Now at a special playoffs price.
Oh, what a play!
Every game of the playoffs, every game of the finals, live and on demand on your tablet, phone, or computer. If you want all the action of the NBA playoffs, then you need NBA League Pass. To order now, go to NBA.com/League Pass.
It is an act of locomotive focus, power with a purpose, fueled by a one-track mind. Here is LeBron James driving to the basket.
LeBron putting the speed on.
Just one play ignites the NBA app. Video from a variety of angles, plus updated impact on score, stats, and series.
Beautiful move by James.
If the NBA app can do all that with just one play, think what it will do with the whole playoffs. Download the free NBA app, the official app of the NBA.
Here come the Pigs.
103-101 Philadelphia.
Going for the tie. Dynamite dunk. Jackson. Milwaukee wins it. Oh, if you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball.
God, this year, man.
Well, Friday night, the Toronto Raptors taking on the Miami Heat in Game 6 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. Toronto trying to advance to the conference finals for the first time in franchise history, as Dwayne Casey has done an excellent job coaching this year with a franchise record 56 wins during the regular season, as we go courtside to Brooklyn.
Well, guys, we're watching Kay Felder give it all he's got. I saw him play a couple times this year. He's small, but he's definitely mighty. And at Ccash14 wants to know, does Kay Felder have a shot of playing his way into the first round?
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, because late in the first round, you're looking for a guy that can help your team. You're a playoff team. This kid showed during the season he can play in the league. And there's not much difference between 25 and 40, in my opinion.
There's not, but I don't think I would not take him in the first round. I think Kay Felder can play in the NBA, and he can be a good player up there. I always think back to what Bill Polian said once. Like, he doesn't fit the suit, and he talked about, he's an exception. If he makes the league, he would be an exception. And you start taking exceptions, pretty soon you have a team full of exceptions. Yeah. And so I think the second round would be a great place to get him. But I think you take him in the first round, and he'd better be good, and he'd better make your team.
Yeah, you've got a bunch of franchises that historically made a living on really good second-round picks. As we take a look at Jay's best available point guards, Chris Dunn out of Providence, a little bit older, 22 going on 23, Ulis, Jackson, Murray, and Gary Payton.
It's not a draft full of point guards.
I would throw Kay Felder against Tyler Ulis. I mean, I would throw him against Demetrius Jackson, DeJounte Murray.
Well, here's the deal.
He's a comparative, man. That kid's going to pick you up full court. I mean, he understands how to play the game.
See, I have him in the early. I have him in the early second, but I'm not going to be shocked if he goes in the first round. Okay, that's my point.
I would be too.
I wouldn't be.
Yeah, I wouldn't be Kay Felder.
I wouldn't be. So many other options there with size and.
Oh, you got stash guys too. Yeah. You got a lot of stash guys there, but I wouldn't be shocked. No way.
Hey, Andy Cat standing by right now with Chris Dunn near the top of that list.
All right, thank you, Mark. Yeah, the top of Jay's available point guards is Providence Chris Dunn. You decided a year ago to bypass the draft and go back to Providence. Why did you decide that?
I mean, the main reason why I came back is for the education. I already did 3 years. I want to make my family proud. I want to make New London proud, Providence proud. I just wanted to finish college, and get that degree. And then on the court, my last year was my 1 full year of, being a point guard, in the college basketball. I only played 1 year, my junior year. So I wanted to come back, learn more about the game, be more knowledgeable, and learn more about my game, see how I can improve and what weaknesses I could go on and, try to work on.
So what did you learn about your game?
I have a lot of great strengths, but some weaknesses that, I got to work on, in order to be a great point guard, in the NBA, like all the other point guards that are in there right now, I got to work on those weaknesses.
Even though you've had 2 great seasons for Providence in the Big East, You had the right shoulder injury, and when it comes to this time of the year, the medical testing, they tend to scrutinize any kind of past injuries. What's come up in terms of any interviews about your shoulder?
Yeah, I mean, they asked if, if my shoulder's still bothering me, but I haven't had any problems since that, my second shoulder injury. Providence College, they did an amazing job. The training staff over there, John Rock, my weightlifting coach, Coach White, they did a phenomenal job, getting me ready to this point, and I'm just very appreciative, for everybody who helped me get to this point and supported me.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Back to you, Mark.
Jay, you had him at the top of your list. What do you see as him being in the sense of being unique? What is that quality?
I mean, his body reminds you, and his athleticism reminds you of Dwayne Wade. He's got great length. I think he can be an elite defender in the NBA. He gets a lot of steals. He rebounds from his position. The one question as a point guard, he turns it over a little bit too much. We talked about Tyler Ulis being a better leader, but this kid's a big-time, I think he's a big-time prospect, and I think he's going to be in the NBA for a long time, and he's going to be an impact player. I think he can improve his shooting, but he can make shots. He's just not a consistent perimeter shooter, and his turnovers are an issue. I think he's got to be a little more consistent in that regard, but he's got everything you want in a player, and especially with his size and athleticism, his ability to play the point, in transition, his ability to get to the rim. He scores, he passes, and he can really, really defend. So he's a two-way player.
And just to play devil's advocate, to turn the ball over, because I would agree with you, Jay, but when you watch a Providence game, I mean, almost every offensive set came through him. I mean, there's so much responsibility on his shoulders each and every night to create plays not only for himself but for his teammates. And sometimes that can have a byproduct of you forcing the issue multiple times.
He had a nice time and a good career playing for Coach Cooley at Providence College. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, more of the skills and drills from Chicago, the 2016 NBA Draft Combine. They look strong.
Adams knows he's got to hurry, and that finds iron, and there's Westbrook.
That's crazy. Can I say that?
You want an argument out of me, you have to change the subject. And all 5 men touched the ball on that possession.
Unbelievable. And Russell Westbrook just showing the athleticism and timing on that play.
Hey everyone, welcome to 24 Seconds with me, Kevin Durant, the Oklahoma City Thunder. Whole wardrobes are tough to come by when you're this tall. My least favorite part of practice is stretching.
Turns the corner, pulls up for the lead, gets a shot blocked.
I think a huge block is the biggest momentum changer. A dagger 3 might switch up the momentum as well.
KD for 3.
All right, now that's the buzzer. I'm out.
It is an act of aerial ferocity. Elevation meets emotion. It is the soar and the roar. Here is Russell Westbrook attacking the rim. Just one play ignites the NBA app. Video from a variety of angles, plus updated impact on score, stats, and series. If the NBA app can do all that with just one play, think what it will do with the whole playoffs. Download the free NBA app, the official app of the NBA.
Lean In Together is about what we can all do
to help the women in our lives.
And men have an important role to play.
When men lean in, everyone wins.
I want to be a great player, but I want to be an even better father.
I lean in at home so Adrian can lean into her work.
We need to stand up for gender equality.
A little support for the women you work with can go a long way.
Let's all lean in together.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in. Are you?
Passer.
Welcome back, everyone, to Chicago, the NBA Draft Combine. Kay Felder at the vertical jump test.
I'm telling you, this will put him in the first round, Jonesy.
What's he going to hit? 35? 38?
By the way, I always found this difficult for some of the guys. After a long game, you just played here for 45 minutes, and then you cool down, then you go to the vertical testing, all the agility drills. It's hard to kind of fire those muscles back up.
You know, we were talking about Boris Diaw a little bit earlier. There's a funny story. David Griffin was with the Phoenix Suns at the time, and he talked about Boris Diaw and his laissez-faire attitude coming from France, and he walks across the court in the morning. He sees the Vertimax machine there, and he sees some of the guys doing the testing. He says, "Oh, what is this?" And he said, "Oh, it's a Vertimax machine." And Boris had strolled in with his cappuccino, like he always does, and puts his cappuccino down, takes off his flip-flops, jumps up, hits 41 on it, puts his flip-flops back on, and walks off. So, you got to be careful when you compare present-day Boris to the past Boris.
That was a very good French accent, by the way.
This is Gary Payton.
Aren't you glad that they don't have the body fat test on the desk right now?
I'm all for it. I added 2% after last night.
Payton actually led the Pac-12 in steals this year. Pretty dynamic player, good defender. Mentioned the fact he's a little bit older than some here, 23. Son of Gary Payton, former player with the Sonics and the Heat, Lakers.
This young man was a late bloomer. Really didn't enjoy basketball till like his junior, senior year of high school, and went the JUCO route. Two-time Defensive Player of the Year in the Pac-12.
Pretty similar, huh?
Yeah. Although GP could really score in college. He averaged a lot of points his senior year.
How good a defender you think he'll be at the NBA level, Payton?
You know what? Jay knows this. Jay's broken him down. When I watched him on tape, the only thing I got concerned with is he gambles a lot and takes himself out of position. But when he steals it, you're going to see a highlight play.
And he's super athletic. I think he's got the chops to be an excellent defender. But Fran's right. He gambled in that first game a couple times and got burned. But he's got a tremendous amount of ability on the defensive end. He's left-handed, doesn't really shoot it, but his athleticism, I think, and his ability to defend sets him apart.
Also, Tom, his mindset. I mean, that kid's a competitor. He crosses his foot across the line. He wants to compete in every aspect of the game.
Felder up at the vertical jump still.
That's not going to get him in the league. His ability to get up underneath you. The job that Kay Felder did on Cat Barber, I thought, was really impressive. Like, he got up underneath him. He really impacted the game defensively in the way he guarded Barber. And I'm not sure how many players in the ACC last year guarded him any better than Kay Felder just did.
Yeah, Barber, one of the quickest players in the conference, perhaps in the country.
I remember earlier this season, I think it was the Cal Virginia game. I was talking to Malcolm Brogdon. They were playing Oakland right after this. And I told them, I said, they got a player named Kay Felder, left-handed, shaped like a bullet, really, and they'd not heard of him. And Brogdon wound up guarding him. They heard of him after that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was unbelievable how tough this kid was against Michigan State. Took them to, how many overtimes was that game? 2 or 3.
Yep.
And then when Michigan State was #1, and he put up huge numbers against Michigan State.
Yeah, he had 37 and 9.
Yeah, then played against Virginia. And Brogdon, one of the best defenders in the country, guarded him. And he had a really tough time with Felder.
He also went into Washington, the Huskies' home court, and had 37 or 38, and Oakland beat the Huskies in Seattle.
Part of the job interview process, shaking hands and talking to some of the various team reps here. And Felder, look at his work during that first game. We're waiting for the second one to get tipped off, and did a lot of the offensive end, but as you pointed out, Jay, he might have raised a few eyebrows in the way that he defended Cat Barber and went at Cat at the other end as well.
To put it in perspective, Isaiah Thomas, now an All-Star, was the 60th pick, the final pick of the second round. And so this kid, especially the way the league is going, he's got a great opportunity to be on the roster. And Greg Campy said he loved coaching him, hated that he left.
Isaiah Thomas can play defense like that.
You got to like his physical stature, not his size, his height. But I mean, he is built and put together to take 82-game season, bring energy to practice, and throw him in a game, he's going to score the ball.
He reminds me a little bit, not the way he plays necessarily. Remember Nate Robinson? One of those guys where you talked about him in the draft going, he's not going to fail. Like he's too good of a competitor. He's got too much ability. that even at his size, where most guys his size can't make it, it's hard at that size. And you just know the kid's going to make it because of his mental makeup and his skill set.
A lot ends up being the coach. The fit with the coach and the coach believing in him and then just unleashing him and letting him go. That's always key with someone with a size differential like that.
Payton now in the agility drill as we get ready to tip off the second game. And let's take a look at the rosters in game number 2 here as we look at the white team first. Coached by Johnny Bryant and Sam Perkins. Melo Trimble at point guard.
A lot of big
Baker, Wichita State. Yeah, Cousins. Who's the guy that jumps off the page at you, Fran? Is there one guy that intrigues you? Or actually, pardon me,
no,
Jay?
Fran, I'll take this one.
Yeah.
I like Ron Baker, I like Josh Hart, but Troy Williams, and I said it before, he might be one of the most athletic players in this combine. Showed the ability to knock down the three, extremely athletic, great at attacking the rim. Defensively, I think he has a chance to be a lot better than what he played in college. I think he has to think the game through more. But there's no doubting him athletically and skill-wise. He has the talent to actually do some work here if he's committed to the game.
And there's the roster for the blue team.
And I've mentioned this guy a couple times today, Isaiah Whitehead. Here's a guy with size, speed, one of the best passers in this draft. He's only a sophomore, so people expect him to go back. But I just got a text like 5 minutes ago from a Big East head coach. He said he easily could have been the player of the year in the league. To put it in perspective, guys, he averaged 22+ against Villanova 3 times, 19+ against a really good Xavier defensive team. And I kind of hope he goes back because I think Seton Hall could be really good. But there are teams talking about him late first round right now.
As we're getting set for the tip. Eric Hughes is coaching the white team. Remember, 2 20-minute halves.
I just spotted Perry Ellis back there.
I saw Frank Kaminsky in the house as well.
Perry Ellis was in the 1986 pre-draft camp.
With you.
He gets tired of those old man jokes, but they're too good to pass up.
Speaking of old man, I want to see DeAndre Bembry with that old man flow and throwback game as well from St. Joe's.
Folks, remember, you can watch the game in its entirety on the Watch ESPN app when we break away for commercial or when we break away to cover some of the agility drills, and we're underway here. Page up court, working against Trimble. Jumper first one of the game, good by Bennell.
That's another guy that Ed Cooley is praying that he does not make shots.
He led the Big East at 21.1 points per game last year and 7.7 rebounds. Off the steal, Trimble turned it over, then got it back. Long three, no good. Williams on that last miss.
That's what Ben Benton can do.
Though. Yep, Ben Bennell knocks down another one.
He really stretched the defense. Gianno Onuaku did not want to go out and guard him, and he just pulled up and knocked down that three.
You mentioned it, Bennell hasn't signed with an agent yet. That's over by Miles off the mark, and here comes the blue team. Page from downtown. Nice board inside and stick back good.
That's the young man, Siakam. Yeah, yep. Siakam from New Mexico State. Yep. Really good rebounder, raw. Hasn't an agent. Should go back, unless he plays great here.
Pascal Siakam.
That's the kind of burst right there you like from Troy Williams off that ball screen.
Page with a quick hit ahead. Tough step back, no good. Bembry went down and actually fell.
Yeah, he got the got the bounce. But Bembry's going to be, he's already a really good player. I like the way he projects to the next level. He's so athletic, just a team guy. Just think he needs to get his shot more consistent. Everything else, I think he's got.
It's a great point, Jay. You know, he's likely going to a playoff team, which makes his value of being a great team guy even better.
So Baker off the nice cut. And a great dime.
Ron Baker not doing the same things Buddy Hield does off the bounce, but one thing I like about him, he's always going to play it hard defensively, and he's great at moving without the ball. And he is one of the best shooters in this combine as well.
Big, strong, and he's got long arms. Just got to be able to knock down shots consistently and get shots. You know, it's one thing to make open shots, another thing to get them, and he's going to have to improve at getting shots.
My favorite part of his game is he played for Mark Few last summer in Pan Am Games. And Mark, you know, the FIBA stuff up there was really physical. He went toe-to-toe with every guy he could go at.
Yeah, Brent, both he and Melo Trimble were teammates on that Pan American Games team.
Malcolm Brogdon as well, who played well. Denzel Valentine and Taurean Prince all here. Nice.
Bembry cross court, Malik Newman. And Newman dribbles it out of bounds. An interesting participant here, Malik Newman, completing his freshman year at Mississippi State. He was the most outstanding player in the FIBA Under-18 World Championship team a couple summers ago. But guys, did he underperform this year at Mississippi State, or was it a team issue?
Well, he was like their third best player. But the thing about Malik is he's trying to make a transition to being an NBA point guard, and he's really a 6'2" scorer, and he didn't score it all that well because he wasn't a focal point of Mississippi State's offense this year.
Did shoot 38% from downtown. Yeah. I'm telling you, baseline jumper, good. Bendel again.
Once again, Bembry, though, just being able to catch and do so many things off the dribble and make everybody else around him better, too.
And he's one big reason. Like, he played with Isaiah Miles this year. Miles led, who I think will probably be a second-round pick in the draft, but Miles led the team in scoring. I think he led him in rebounding, too, but Bembry was content to be a setup guy. And he had a lot of great games at a terrific scoring average, too, but he didn't need to be the main guy. It's not like he's an egoless teammate, I think.
I think, Jay, he's probably one of the 3 best passers in the draft. You can throw Ben Simmons in there, obviously.
Foul and a whistle on Page, fouling Trimble.
Who would you put? You put him, Simmons, so you put Whitehead up there too? Or
Whitehead, I think Denzel Valentine.
Denzel Valentine,
yeah. As good a passer as he is, and Whitehead certainly right behind them.
I think Dunn is a heck of a Chris Dunn's a heck of a passer, and we both, you know, we all love Tyler Ulis' passing ability. There are a bunch of good passers in it. That's a good point. There are a bunch of good passers in this draft.
Meanwhile, Taurean Prince at the agility drill. Taurean Prince out of Baylor. Out of bounds. It'll be blue ball. Blue leading 11-6. Prince on the right side of your screen in the lane agility drill.
And that's Malik Newman's game right there. Catch and shoot.
Trimble working against Page on the drive, and Melo Trimble gets all the way to the bucket. He slumped late in the season for Maryland. Trimble hasn't signed with an agent.
He didn't get to the free throw line as often this year as last year. This year being his sophomore year, and he, you know, early on in the season when Maryland played in the Big Ten ACC and played North Carolina in the second half against the Tar Heels, he was unstoppable in pick and roll situations. Absolutely unstoppable.
Boy, Newman with a stare down 3 with a hand in his face. And quickly at the other end, the tip no good. Onuaku couldn't finish. Boy, look at Baker with that on-ball defense. And a good punch.
Troy Williams just selling out, going for the steal there when he got caught on Siakam inside. Just led to an easy basket. You can't gamble there.
Meanwhile, that's Damian Jones on the right on the vertical jump testing. Damian Jones, an interesting big man prospect out of Vanderbilt, all SEC a season ago. Not participating in the 5-on-5, but fellas, with a name like Jones, you know he can play. Back after this.
LeBron James, his company, Della Vedova for James. Wow! 24,999 points. And that windmill was something to see again and again.
And even Brett Brown had to go over and slap him on the butt. Acknowledge the greatness that is the king.
Playoffs are here, and NBA League Pass is your ticket to all the excitement. With NBA League Pass, you'll get every playoff game and every game of the NBA Finals. Now at a special playoffs price.
Oh, what a play!
Every game of the playoffs, every game of the finals, live and on demand on your tablet, phone, or computer. If you want all the action of the NBA playoffs, then you need NBA League Pass. To order now, go to NBA.com/League Pass.
It is an act of cruel beauty. Devastating to opponents, divine to fans. Here is Steph Curry pulling up for three.
Curry takes a three for the win.
Just one play ignites the NBA app. Video from a variety of angles, plus updated impact on score, stats, and series. If the NBA app can do all that with just one play, think what it will do with the whole playoffs. Download the free NBA app, the official app of the NBA.
103-101 Philadelphia. Going for the tie. Let's get hype. Dynamite dunk. Rejection. Milwaukee wins it. If you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball.
Welcome back, everyone. Don't forget tonight, it's Game 6 as the San Antonio Spurs try to stave off elimination against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook and the crew one win away from taking on the Golden State Warriors in the Western Conference Finals. Meanwhile, this is Zhou Qi doing the vertical leap from China. One of several international prospects trying to get the attention of the personnel people here. Tell you what, you got to set that thing a little bit higher when the 7-footers are ready to go. Meanwhile, right now, Blue out to a 22-9 lead.
Thanks to Ben Bentel of Providence. He's made every shot he's looked at. How much did he improve from last year to this?
Jay, he's I was just looking, he's the highest rated player on your best available list, not with an agent.
Maybe that should be remedied.
Just saying. Are you saying you're available? That deep three, no good. Back at the other end. Jake Layman out of Maryland knocks down the three, and another intriguing prospect, Caron Butler, joining us back on the set here. And guys, Layman kind of a prototypical pro with his dynamic ability athletically, and he's skilled too, isn't he?
He is. The biggest thing about Jake Layman this year was inconsistent performance. There were games where, talking to some NBA people, they wanted to see him be more aggressive and be more of an attacking mode, but standstill shooter, very good. Played on a team with a lot of guys that thought they were going to be in the league that are here now.
Athletic, he can run the floor, and he can stretch a defense.
A lot of times, though, Jake struggled in those isolated sets where he was forced to do things off the dribble.
Yes. That was impressive right there. Meanwhile, that was Jared Uthoff out of Iowa. Averaged 19 a game this year, including 38% on his threes. Layman, a little drive and kick. That's one of the rare misses for Bennell. His first one. That baseline jumper good.
Interesting watching Malcolm Brogdon used to play that pack line defense for UVA. Now more of an open set, where you're not funneling him towards the middle. See how he defends the likes of Isaiah Cousins.
Here's Brogdon on the wing.
Boy, that was a big shot that Justin Jackson knocked down on the other end, playing on the white team. He struggled shooting the ball at North Carolina. He came out of high school, out of Texas, with a great reputation as a shooter. And while he had some great moments and had some stretches where he shot the ball well his first 2 years, overall he didn't shoot a good percentage. And I think he's a far better shooter than he's shown in college. I think he's got a chance to be a really good NBA player.
A whistle and a foul called. And Karan, Jay just mentioned the fact about the pack line defense they played at Maryland. How big is the adjustment going from college to pro?
I think it's huge because, guys are moving, so much faster, and, schemes and defensive schemes, tendencies, all that stuff play in. Now you have the, basketball royalties of the world, and the San Antonios, the Miami Heats, and, guys like that have a system and have a way that they play defense and the style, and they look for guys to fit those positions. But, a lot of times, you got to adjust and get used to players' tendencies.
Hey, how long did it take you to adjust to the speed of the game? The speed and the length of the game.
It took some time, and it really did. After going through the whole couple first months of development of rhythm and the speed and the length of guys, and just the intelligence of the players that you was playing against. Now they're so skilled. Like, this is the best of the best guys that really know their craft inside out, and they take pride into it. So it took some time.
Karan, how much different is this compared to those individual workouts that you did, the individual workouts once you went to teams?
It was similar, but at the same time, there's no time frame. Now you see a running clock right now. And, when you go to individual workouts with teams, there is no running clock. We don't know how long they're going to keep us. And, like some guys that opted not to be here today, you're playing against the best of the best. The guys at your position, and they want to gauge and see who's the best guy, who can handle situations, and that's what it is.
Hey, I went through the whole individual workout process when I was coming back through the D-League, and Fran, it was way more draining than this. At least this, you can almost hide in the midst of everybody else performing, and it's a pickup game. But when you start doing individual workouts, all that attention is on you.
Yeah.
Each and every detail is focused on you. We did this drill with Jeff Van Gundy where he broke my spirit. He called it 17, where we had to do, we had a minute for each spot, 7 spots around the College three-point line, a minute to shoot at each spot. Then we went back to the NBA three-point line. Then we finished it off with the windshield wiper drill. And that was the way we started the workout. Then we went into 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3. I was broken before we even got there.
So is that it? No, we're just warming up.
Sometimes you got to tap out.
Exactly.
Or not. Layman active at the offensive end. We're going to take a short timeout and come back on the other side of this.
They don't give you a championship. You take a championship. He showed up in a huge way.
You're not going to stop those guys. You just have to do all you can to try to contain them.
This is playoff basketball.
Eyes don't lie. These guys never panic.
Imposing his will.
You get deep in the playoffs, you can never have enough scoring.
There's only one way to play, and that's to win.
This is playoff basketball. Guys putting it all on the line. They won a championship.
Curry flips it up and flips it in. You hear the ooze from the crowd after the crossover.
It's like somebody's using one of those video game consoles, and he's got a handset, and they're just making him do all this stuff. It's really remarkable.
Welcome back, everyone, to Quest Athletics and the Draft Combine here in Chicago. Andy Katz standing by with Philadelphia's Jerry Colangelo.
That's right, Mark. Now Philadelphia's Jerry Colangelo, a special advisor to the Sixers. Why'd you want back in the game at that level?
Well, it wasn't a matter of wanting back in. I was asked to step in and be of some help, and being a lifer as I have been in terms of the game, I was more than happy to do it.
Now, your son was here earlier and said it's not a rebuild, it's a build because some pieces are already in place. From your vantage point, what needs to happen with the Sixers?
I think kind of a new direction, which is basically taking advantage of all the assets that are now in place and pulling the trigger and using them to build a product. And you know, you can't wait forever to compete. That gets to be old after a period of time, and I think ownership decided it was time for a real change, and I kind of supported that, and I think it's a great thing to have Brian back in the league. That's his home territory, and he feels very comfortable there, and I think it's in good hands with him, and I think Philadelphia has a bright future.
How fixable is it?
Anything's fixable. You have to be willing to take some risk, be willing to pull the trigger, and Brian is that kind of guy. He will.
There's a lot of concern about the Rio Olympics. You're in charge of USA Basketball. In fact, there was a study that came out that essentially people shouldn't go down there because of the political unrest, the Zika virus. What kind of protections are you putting in place with USA Basketball for the team this summer?
Well, the U.S. Olympic Committee has been really monitoring everything for us, for USA Basketball, and we actually feel we're in pretty good shape. We're ready to go. I think all of the necessary precautions have been taken and will be taken once we're there, and we're not going to be concerned with any of that. We're just going to go about our business and try to bring back another gold medal.
Thanks, Jerry.
Okay, take care.
Back to you, Mark.
All right, great stuff. And here's a look at Chad Ford's mock draft. He has Simmons going number 1, Ingram number 2 to the Lakers, Murray 3 to the Celtics, Bender from Croatia at 4, and Ellenson rounding out the top 5.
No Chris Dunn.
No Chris Dunn.
You know, it's interesting about Jamal Murray as you look at the rest of the top 15, right there, top 14, excuse me, but it's curious to get your opinion on him, guys, because there are times when I watched him play that when the ball was in his hands, now granted, I don't know if he played with guys who had a high basketball IQ like him, and I think there are times he deferred to Tyler Ulis, because when you watch him in some of the Pan Am games, he was spectacular. He's a great shooter. But does he have the quickness to get by people off the dribble? Because it seemed like at times he struggled with that.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a spectacular athlete, but I mean, he averaged 20 a game in the SEC. And once they stopped doing all that dribble drive stuff, where I think he had a hard time conceptually of the idea of just putting his head down and driving. Yeah. And he fought it, frankly. And when he started playing off the ball and coming off screens, and then when he had the ball in his hands, then he became a scorer again. He was comfortable. And I think he's going to be a really good NBA player. Now, is he going to be a point guard? That's the issue. He's a small 2, and he's not a jet point guard. But he's a player. Like, he's a player.
He kind of has to be a point
guard. Find a fit for him.
He can play the point.
He can play a point.
The guy he reminds me of is a younger version of Brandon Roy, whose career ended early because at 6'5", now we're watching Tyler Ulis. And we've already talked about Kay Felder, and this guy's in the same ballpark, Mark.
Yeah, Ulis, the driving force behind Kentucky's success this year. And you think about how timely Tyler Ulis was and some of the big plays that he made this year. That's one of those things that I think translates more often than not.
I think to Jay's point, the thing about Jamal Murray is he had to play off the ball for the first time, and in a weird way, I think it's going to help his game in the NBA.
Yeah. You know, we talk about the idea of, like, we talked before about production versus potential, or what was the word you used?
Production versus potential.
Okay. So, but if you look at Murray's a young kid, and if you look at some of these other players where we're talking about production, like Buddy Hield, right? Where was Buddy Hield when he was Murray's age?
Great,
It ain't close.
7 points a game.
It ain't close. Yeah. And you project him out further, like I think Jamal Murray's going to continue to get better. What he is now, he's a 20-point-a-game scorer as a freshman, and he's going to continue to get better.
International basketball exposure goes a long way.
That's why they have GMs to try to evaluate all this. We're going to take a short break and come back with a lot more from the 5-on-5 and some of the drills in Chicago.
lean in together is about what we can all do
to help the women in our lives.
And men have an important role to play.
When men lean in, everyone wins.
I want to be a great player, but I want to be an even better father.
I lean in at home so Adrian can lean into her work.
We need to stand up for gender equality.
A little support for the women you work with can go a long way.
Let's all lean in together.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in. Are you?
Playoffs are here, and NBA League Pass is your ticket to all the excitement. With NBA League Pass, you'll get every playoff game and every game of the NBA Finals. Now at a special playoffs price. Every game of the playoffs, every game of the finals, live and on demand on your tablet, phone, or computer. If you want all the action of the NBA playoffs, then you need NBA League Pass. To order now, go to NBA.com/League Pass.
It is an act of aerial ferocity. Elevation meets emotion. It is the soar and the roar. Here is Russell Westbrook attacking the rim. Just one play ignites the NBA app. Video from a variety of angles, plus updated impact on score, stats, and series. If the NBA app can do all that with just one play, think what it will do with the whole playoffs. Download the free NBA app, the official app of the NBA.
What's up, Inside Steph? He's scored on me a number of times, so he's not going to score on me today.
We're going to build a Timberwolves Sunday.
If I eat this, I'll be able to jump like him. Yeah, that's where my hops come from. All right, let's do it. If you win, I win. Now that's the inside stuff. Now that is the inside stuff.
Inside Stuff with Grant and Kristen, presented by Samsung. Saturdays on NBA TV.
Hey folks, Friday night, the Raptors trying to put the Heat to bed at Game 6 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. Must-win game for Miami. It all starts at 7 o'clock Eastern on ESPN with NBA Countdown. Hey, Tough Juice, Caron Butler, Dwayne Wade, your guy. You guys are tight. What's your feel? What do you think?
I think it goes 7, and you know I'm gonna stick with my pick. Early on, I had Miami winning that series. I think Kyle Lowry really changed the whole momentum of that series, you know, with Jonas going down and him taking more of the initiative of being more aggressive and having the ball more and making big shots. And DeRozan, I mean, wow, he was spectacular last game. But I still got Miami winning the series.
Who wins the next series then?
Let's keep it here. Let's keep it here.
I'm going to leave it at that.
That wasn't in the script, Jim.
You caught me off guard.
Malik Newman inside, next dime, but Siakam couldn't finish. And he'll go to the free throw line for a pair with the Blue leading by 20. 32 seconds to go.
In the first half.
It's just the second time in the last 8 years that they've brought back the 5-on-5 scrimmaging format.
You know, Jonesy, one of the things going through my mind right now is watching Alan Crabb last night. He was here 3 years ago and really didn't stand out, although he had a good Cal career. So much fun to watch some of these guys out here that even if they're not first-round picks, a year, 2, 3, 4, they're in the league and they become good players.
Sure.
You know, they become good players.
Hey, we were talking a little bit earlier off camera about Norman Powell, who was in the combine last year and showed out and played well. And look at him now getting regular starts in the playoffs for the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah, oftentimes it's about, you know, we talk about the first round. We should. I mean, the first round's important. But there's so many guys that are second-round picks, undrafted, that wind up having long, productive NBA careers because they've got maybe they're a specialist, they have a special skill, they can shoot it, they can rebound, they can defend. But, you know, there's so many guys that work their way in the league, and that's really the fun part of watching these guys play is, and watching them. Like, when you're watching some of these players, it's not necessarily, they're not necessarily being evaluated for the draft. They're being evaluated for what a team may do with them later on.
Yeah, when the teams go through the interview process, speaking with a couple of the general managers here, even though they know that they're not going to have an opportunity to draft that player, you're still amassing information about those 18 to 20 players that you have an opportunity to interview. Timeout on the floor, 62-39 with 26 seconds to go now in the first half.
A guy that fits that kind of mold we're talking about, Isaiah Cousins from Oklahoma. I don't know where he'll get drafted, if he gets drafted, but you could see a guy like that going down to the D-League. You know, he's gotten better every year. He's got good positional size for the point guard spot. And what you got is a guy, first of all, you know he's a gym rat, and he's had 4 years on the roster. And he's also made big shots, but he's got the size and he's got the savvy in the game and also the outside shooting to maybe make a team right away. But if not, he's a guy you could see playing in Erie or Maine, not hear from him for a couple years, and then all of a sudden he's 25 years old and he's with the Detroit Pistons. So those are the stories I love.
At the end of the day, you always take a guy from New York City, a point guard who can make his own shot, right, Jay? As you smile at me, there's something to it, right?
Jay didn't even venture into Mount Vernon. He stopped at Scarsdale.
Oh, that's his neighborhood. Oh, man. Blow. That's Argyle Sox territory, Fred.
And wearing Argyle's today. Very fitting.
6 seconds to go. Malik Newman pulls up from mid-range. Jackson with the heave at the buzzer, and that's the end of the first half. The Blue in control, 62-39 as we reach the half. And when you think about some of the standouts in the first 20 minutes, right there, number 27, Ben Bennell from Providence, averaged 21 a game to go along with almost 8 rebounds. He was the only Division I player to average 21 and 7 this year. Where does he project, Fran?
I think he's in the middle of the first round. Anywhere between 15 and 25. The thing you like about him is, what have we been talking about? A big guy that can make shots and stretch the floor with the pick and pop game.
We got some technical issues with Fran's microphone. Jay,
that's what happens when you spin around in the chairs all day long, you know what I mean? Yeah. Mic difficulties.
Jay, your thoughts on Bennell?
Well, because he can shoot it, he's got great value. He's got size and he can step away. And the improvement that he's made while he's been at Providence has really been remarkable. Thought he played great in the first half. Another guy that played extraordinarily well, in my judgment, was DeAndre Bembry of St. Joseph's. Right. And, you know, he's just got a calmness about his game. Like, he doesn't force anything. He's a really good passer. He's super athletic, plays at both ends of the floor. And, you know, I don't know what his decision's going to be, but DeAndre Bembry's got a great future ahead of him.
Meanwhile, for Team 4, Melo Trimble, a guy with a lot of name value coming in, marquee value coming in out of the Big Ten, and he slumped at the end of the season, but he still ended up, Jay, with decent numbers, 14.8 to go along with almost 5 assists per game. What do you make of what you've seen from him so far?
You know, when I think about Melo, obviously him in college, so dynamic and heavily utilizing ball screens. I don't think he had blow-by speed, but his decision-making off ball screens, I thought he was on top of his game. There were times throughout the season where he slumped. I think there was a lot of responsibility on him to create offensively. Today, he did have 14 points. I don't know if he really stood out today. I think a ton is going to be told about him tomorrow, and as it goes through the evaluation process and some of those individual workouts.
Most important for me is the individual workouts, because he's going to have to go against guys like him, whether it's Chris Dunn. Chris Dunn won't work out for anybody, but a Kay Felder, a DeJounte Murray, he's going to have to prove himself. The thing teams don't like about him is size and length. He's only got a 6'2" wingspan, as opposed to some other guys who play longer, and that's an issue. And they know that, and they've seen him.
And he's not a great athlete. He's not a super explosive player. Very good off pick and roll situations, and he's a good decision maker. Not great, but a good decision maker. He's a good player, but I'm not sure whether the timing's right for him to go into the NBA right now.
And by the way, we're talking about the point guard position. Right. We're talking about one of the best positions in the game right now.
Hey, Karan, when, from a player standpoint, if you have a bad game, a bad 10-minute stretch out here scrimmaging, what's the possibility of doubt creeping into your mind, or is that something that you just can't let happen?
I mean, it does happen, but you have to be confident enough and be in the moment to continue to move forward. And, you know, it's always tomorrow. You got another opportunity, another crack at it, and as a competitor, you want that opportunity. You want a chance to go back against those guys that got the better good of you.
That's if you're not pressing. Yeah. So if you're not, it's easy to press in a situation like this,
definitely.
too.
Especially on this stage with all these guys here. It's a huge stage.
But you guys were stars. You were worried about doubt creeping in. See, I was completely certain I couldn't play, so I didn't need to.
No doubt. The monument to doubt.
Run, Jay, run.
Second half of our second game coming up on the other side of this. Stick around.
103-101 Philadelphia. Dynamite dunk! Jackson! Milwaukee wins it! If you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball.
It is an act of cruel beauty, devastating to opponents, divine to fans. Here is Steph Curry pulling up for three.
Curry takes a three for the win.
Just one play ignites the NBA app. Video from a variety of angles, plus updated impact on score, stats, and series. If the NBA app can do all that with just one play, think what it will do with the whole playoffs. Download the free NBA app, the official app of the NBA.
20 years ago, I was just a little girl.
I didn't know I'd average 20 points. Didn't know I'd have eyes in the back of my head.
I didn't know I would grow to be 6'9".
I didn't know I'd become an all-star.
Didn't know I'd be a nightmare on the wing.
But what I did know is if I could do what they did, I could be a pro. Watch me work.
Yes, there's my guy.
And that did not look like it. There's your guy. Everybody hates the rim right now. There's your guy, Dwight Powell. What do you know?
Woo! That's burning the house down there, baby.
I just never thought that I would make it to college, NBA.
Golden State is going to be an up-tempo style, and I should be able to flourish there.
Durant, a two-hand jam. Final seconds here. Across midcourt with Curry, a deep three. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! Old-fashioned way as Curry does it. 400 three-pointers in a season.
Welcome everyone back to Chicago. Mark Jones chopping it up alongside Tom Penn, Jay Williams, Fran Fraschilla, Jay Billis, Andy Katz, Caron Butler, the NBA veteran, and Brooke Weisbrod courtside. We have one more hour of coverage here today and then 4 more tomorrow, beginning at 3 o'clock Eastern time, ending at 7 o'clock as we work towards the NBA draft. You also see that on ESPN June 23rd from Brooklyn and the Barclays Center. Back to the second half. Blue leading the White 65-39.
The White better start defending at a higher level. They gave up almost 60% from the field in the first half.
Perry Ellis with the outlet, a little 2-on-1 at the other end, and Whitehead with the finish.
You know, I still like these games because you can tell a lot about the White team, about their mentality. How do you play when you're getting blown out?
Well, their mentality better be to attack because they're playing 5-on-4. They let Isaiah Whitehead get back in it with only one shoe.
I wonder if we'll see some adjustments to the rosters tomorrow. Here's Melo Trimble, little two-man game. They switch the screen. Trimble guarded by Layman. Nice feed inside and a foul called. As Isaiah Miles went up, he'll get 2. Isaiah Miles, a senior out of St. Joe's, averaged 18 points a game to go along with 8 rebounds. An improved three-point shooter from a season ago. Went from 39% to almost 52 this year. Pardon me, his field goal percentage.
Well, Jay made a great point earlier. One of the reasons DeAndre Bembry had such a good year is a lot of times in pick and pop, he just threw it back to this guy who made that high percentage of shots you talked about.
You know, Miles just plays so hard. You know, he's one of those guys that'll be has a chance to make a roster and be a rotation player. But you put him in the game, and you know, he's long, he can rebound. When he's open, he can score, and he plays his tail off.
How come you haven't said wingspan at all?
I don't know, I'm saving it for the draft, Tom. I don't want people drinking in the middle of the day.
Not one wingspan.
Unless it's me.
Nice soft touch by Jake Layman. Knocks down another shot. Layman out of Maryland, averaged almost 12 a game. Here's Baker out top. Baker with a mismatch. Nice blow by, almost had the N1, the foul called against Layman. So in stark contrast to the first half, guys, where we saw Baker maybe defer a little bit. That time a little bit more aggressive at the offensive end. Had a great career at Wichita State. Part of that magical run, that team that went undefeated deep into the NCAA tournament before being upended by Kentucky.
Remember, he started as a walk-on at Wichita State from Scott City, Kansas. He sat out the first year, and so he's a little bit older, but he's got great toughness, man. I think all the guys on the set that have been around him in the last 4 years really like him. He's personable.
And one thing Franny doesn't get a lot of credit for, he's one hell of a defender.
Oh, he's tough as he is. I mean, battler.
Jonesy, he will fight through any down screen. He will fight over the top of a ball screen. He will compete with you to the end. And that last possession too, showing the extra skill set of putting the ball down the ground. He's not making shots today, but finding different ways to get involved in the offense.
Well, Jay made a great point. It really comes down to him making threes.
He does. He's a floor spacer.
Because that's what he is. But you know what? Guys that have been coached hard by the Tom Izzos, the Creans, the
Greg
Marshalls. You know, this guy's had to defend and play defense for 5 years.
Here's Whitehead up court. Bembry kicks it out to a wide open Layman from downtown.
See that pass right there by Bembry? He's throwing it to an NBA shooter next year off that penetration.
I was just thinking that. Like, that was such a mature play by Bembry. A lot of guys would have driven in there and gone too fast and tried to get a shot up instead of kicking it out to guys stepping in for a three. And that's really where the game's going now. I mean, you penetrate, kick it out to a three-point shooter, get a rotation. I thought that was really well done by DeAndre Bembry.
Blue team to inbound. It'll be Bembry to inbound. Tried to catch them napping. The side pick and roll. Boy, great handle by Whitehead. And he knocks down the short jump shot. That's a big time move, guys.
I got a text from one of your friends in the league about 15 minutes ago, and he said they got to start to prepare for him not being there. And I'd love to see him come back for his junior year, because he's going to be such a good player next year at Seton Hall. They've done such a great job. Kevin Willard's rebuilt that program.
As of now, he hasn't signed with an agent.
No, but Mark, it's not what he's doing here, because teams have a good idea.
You get better texts than I do. I got one from my wife asking why I didn't roll the garbage cans out before I left.
I get those too.
You got to put your filter on a different setting, Jay. That's what it is. Nice lob and a finish by Perry Ellis up top. Off the nice feed.
You know, we say it every year, but Malcolm Brogdon, Jay, where do you have him? High 20s, 20s or 30s?
I've got him top of the second round.
Yeah, and you know, if he slips into the end of the first round, he's going to a really good team where he fits, you know, that team culture.
Yeah. Meanwhile, over on the right side of your screen, Sheldon McClellan out of the University of Miami. Played for Jim Larinaga, had a great year as they had a good ACC season. Former Texas transfer, and he has big-time athletic ability. And the agility drill right now. McClellan teamed up in the backcourt in Miami with Angel Rodriguez.
I could do that drill. That took 3 seconds.
You know, when you look at, and we were talking about a little bit during the commercial break, some of the significance of these drills is discounted when you consider the mere fact that Kevin Durant could not bench press 185 pounds, yet he seemed to do pretty good so far in the NBA, guys.
You know, that's many times you find somebody like Kevin Durant.
It didn't hurt him.
That high, can shoot the ball the way he did for Rick Barnes in Texas.
Yeah, they don't stop in the middle of a game and have a bench press contest. Nice when you can do it, but it's not a necessity.
Stan Van Gundy, the brain trust of the Pistons, alongside Bob Myers, Kupchak of the Lakers.
We should get an interview with Stan Van Gundy. I mean, I love watching him interview. Yeah. He's going to say how he feels.
Yep. Peja Stojakovic alongside Vlade Divac of the Sacramento Kings, recently hiring Dave Yeager as their head coach. And
didn't you love seeing all those guys on their phones when they're all saying, kids today, they're just looking at their phones.
Yeah, we should roll this back at them after. McClellan completing the agility drill.
Those GMs just don't have the attention span.
And of course, a coaching opening today as Scott Skiles suddenly resigning with the Orlando Magic.
How about that?
That's a big surprise. We saw Adrian Griffin here. He's a member of that coaching staff with the Magic. Off to steal Brogdon. Good hit ahead in the slam.
Second great pass on Malcolm Brogdon.
You know, the hardest thing to do in the NBA front office is keep everybody rowing in the same direction. It's so hard to explain, but that coaching staff is under such fire and pressure. Every loss, you got to do an autopsy on it and assign blame. More often than not, it ends up at the coach's feet. And it's just so hard to keep the coaching staff and the executive team aligned and going forward.
Tom, what's the most important thing in getting that accomplished? Does it come from, is it ownership or front office?
Well, ownership can unravel it by dividing and conquering. But I believe you have to just over-communicate, hyper-communicate, and you must have the coaches back. You must go talk to him after the losses, not after the wins, not after the losses. You know, you got to pick your spots. He's got to know you're with him. You're shoulder to shoulder. You're in the trenches, because everybody's taking shots at him, especially front office knowledgeable basketball people. It's just the easiest thing to do is pick apart what went wrong.
As a front office guy, as a GM, assistant GM, whatever, how visible were you day to day to the team?
Well, in Portland, we were there every day and, you know, communicated. Both Kevin Pritchard as general manager would speak to Nate McMillan every day, win, lose, or draw, and I was in communication with key assistants and would talk to Nate at times. We had a really cohesive, our offices in the practice facility went coach, GM, assistant coaches, assistant GM, that kind of staggering of things. Just trying to integrate and be together. Now, when you talk about the Boston Celtics, they're integrated. They went through the valley, and Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens have been along together.
Meanwhile, speaking of the Boston Celtics and their brain trust, Brad Stevens standing by with Andy Katz.
All right, thank you, Mark. So, Brad, we had Danny up here earlier. You guys have 8 picks in these 2 rounds, a chance for the #1 draft pick. What is the most pressing need that you need to add to this team?
Well, I think no matter what, we're just going to continue to focus on adding the right guys with the right talent level to our team, regardless of position, regardless of need. And I think Danny's done a great job of that. And, you know, our front office does a great job of vetting all these guys and watching them all year as they're going through. And now I'm catching up a little bit. And it's fun to see some of these guys that, you know, I already recruited at some point or another and/or had watched on the AAU circuit when I was still in college.
You guys have created a great identity for your success so far, hard-working group. How hard has it been to find the guys that fit for the way that you want to coach?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, you know, you always want to coach the most talented guys. I mean, at the end of the day, we're really lucky to coach in that league where you've got the 450 best players in the world, and it's a thrill to coach them, and it's a thrill to coach against them. The one thing that I think has been really good for our group is we have a lot of guys that for one reason or another have a chip on their shoulder. You know, they were told somewhere along the line, you know, that they weren't as good as somebody else or they're not good enough. And, you know, Isaiah's probably the greatest example of that, being the 60th pick in the draft. And you know, he's the furthest thing from Mr. Irrelevant, right? I mean, he's a heck of a player. He's an all-star. And it's a good, you know, I think that's a good you know, it's a good look into our team because we have a lot of guys that for one reason or another have been doubted.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks, Andy.
Back to you, Mark.
All right, thanks a lot, Andy. You know, I've spoken with some Celtic players. They all love Stevens and respect his preparation and his communication skills. Smooth ride most of the time. Back after this.
It is an act of locomotive focus, power with a purpose, fueled by a one-track mind. Here is LeBron James driving to the basket.
LeBron putting the speed on.
Just one play ignites the NBA app. Video from a variety of angles, plus updated impact on score, stats, and series.
Beautiful move by James.
If the NBA app can do all that with just one play, think what it will do with the whole playoffs. Download the free NBA app, the official app of the NBA.
Lean In Together is about what we can all do
to help the women in our lives.
And men have an important role to play.
When men lean in, everyone wins.
I want to be a great player, but I want to be an even better father.
I lean in at home so Adrian can lean into her work.
We need to stand up for gender equality.
A little support for the women you work with can go a long way.
Let's all lean in together.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in. Are you?
Philadelphia. Dynamite dunk. Injection. Milwaukee wins it. Well, if you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball.
The NBA playoffs are here, and NBA League Pass is your ticket to all the excitement. With NBA League Pass, you'll get every playoff game and every game of the NBA Finals. Now at a special playoffs price.
Oh, what a play!
Every game of the playoffs, every game of the finals, live and on demand on your tablet, phone, or computer. If you want all the action of the NBA playoffs, then you need NBA League Pass. To order now, go to nba.com/League Pass.
And welcome back to Chicago, everyone. Tonight, after big Game 6 between the Spurs and Thunder, Bucci and Levy are back at it again with SportsCenter at night. They'll have all the highlights and analysis from that game, the Players' Championship, and the rest of the day in sports. SportsCenter at night tonight on ESPN and streaming live on Watch ESPN and the ESPN app as we take a look at Jay Billis's best available bigs.
Centers, I think they put it.
They still use these guys in basketball,
use that
right?
term. I've heard that term.
They still have bigs, right?
So, Jay, is it ranking from left to right?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think it's from left to right.
Bertel Stone, Labissiere, Zimmerman, and Damian Jones.
You know, Labissiere is the really interesting case to me, that he came in as a sort of out of high school, people thinking #1 pick in the draft perhaps, and did not perform well. They really struggled last year at Kentucky. And the one thing that stood out to me, I know he's far better than he showed last year, but the one thing that stood out, he didn't rebound. And of all the things that I expected him to be able to do, one was rebound at a higher rate. And he only averaged 3 rebounds a game last year at Kentucky. And that, honestly, that shocked me.
Yeah, in 16 minutes, which is a rebound every 5 minutes. The thing I don't like, there's things I like. The thing I don't like is the body type. Trying to be able to defend inside players. I think Jay, where he's at his best, is as a pick and pop fiver. Because he shoots so well in the mid-range.
You even saw that he did an impromptu workout where it's online now, where they're showing the ability to shoot threes. But I think that's how sometimes agents are going to position it, where they show his strengths and focus more on that than his weaknesses.
Well, he can shoot it. It's just, you know, in a 5-on-5 game, he gets exposed a little bit. I think he's got a chance to be much better. I see him though. When you see some of these mock drafts that have him at 10 or 11, it's hard to. It's kind of hard to justify.
Is he better off going back to school, guys? I mean, next year, is he better off in terms of not just being drafted, but having an NBA career?
That's a really good question. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, Fran, Jay, Tom, you may differ on this, but you know, I still go back to the same idea that the steps you have to take to be a great player are the same as they've ever been. The question is, where are you going to take those? And I don't know if it's the right thing for him to go back to Kentucky or not. What if he goes back to Kentucky, he doesn't play any better, and then he moves down, he keeps moving down these draft boards. Right. Then we start second guessing that decision.
Well, what do we do when somebody goes back to school? We say, well, okay, if he's going back to school, he needs to average this and this as opposed to what he averaged last year. If he doesn't, you start to criticize and scrutinize every part of his game.
He might not start on that Kentucky team next year, and you really think about it. I mean, especially if they get Marquise Bolden, you know, young man that's still out there, but. I think a team's gonna take him in the 20s. Right. You know, I don't know.
It's hard when somebody gives you a promise, or if you have a strong indication or evaluation that says you're going to be picked in the lottery somewhere.
Number
I mean,
one.
Yeah.
Number one was the mock.
Yeah. I think about the case of Anthony Bennett, guys, who is out of the league right now and was the #1 pick back in 2013. How do you say no? He shouldn't come out. Hindsight's always 20/20, but the way it's worked out, maybe you know.
Well, but the question is with a guy like Anthony Bennett is if he had gone back to school, would he be in the same position anyway?
True.
You know, the idea that if he would have gone back to UNLV that he would have developed. I mean, he washed out of the league. I don't think anybody saw that coming. Yeah, people might have differed. Hey, I didn't have him at #1, but everybody had him in the top 10. Yeah. And you know, I didn't see him washing out of the league that fast. That surprised me.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you this. Bigs rise in the draft.
We're sitting on that fastball.
We love that line. We've been waiting for that.
They do. Even in today's game, there just aren't that many human beings on Earth that are able to run and be that big.
Baker in transition. The white team still down by 41.
You know, Jay put his top 5 up there, and Damian Jones was there. And Damian Jones is a year younger than his class because he came to Vandy young. But here's a guy nearly 7 feet, 250 pounds, runs the floor. There's things you don't like about his game at times, but I could see that translating to the NBA game. You know, is he fast as Ezeli? I'm not sure, but he's got a live body that you can see putting him in a game next year. I don't see that right now with Skal. I'm thinking long term, couple years, D-League's got to get stronger, but the body type is so narrow to hold his ground in the low post. It worries me.
Some people were comparing him to Anthony Davis because they were both long and lean, but Davis has definitely put on a lot of weight and maybe had a bigger frame.
And Davis was way better in high school too. I mean, you know, there's a difference between, as you guys know, between #1 picks. I mean, you can be the #1 pick one year and be a Hall of Famer, #1 pick another and not be anywhere close. It's hard sometimes, though, when Anthony Davis went to Kentucky, Skal's being compared to him going to Kentucky. I kind of think about that a little bit this year with Denzel Valentine and kind of Draymond Green. People saying using Draymond Green to compare him because they both went to Michigan State, both skilled players and all that stuff, and maybe not the greatest of athletes. But I'm not sure I put Denzel in that category.
Here's the blue team. Malik Newman being guarded by Baker. Outside jumper off the mark by Page. Out of bounds. It'll come back the other way with 8:20 to go. For just the second time in the last 8 years, we're seeing 5-on-5 action. They brought it back a season ago, and this all leads towards the NBA draft, June 23rd in Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah, I think the white team is protesting that decision. 5-on-5.
Hey, Jay, one guy we haven't spoken about. Curious to get your take on him. What makes Jakob Poeltl so special?
You know, he's very, very skilled, and he's got good hands, good feet. He can post. He's got a terrific touch, and he rebounds at a high rate. He's not a great shot blocker, but he can block shots. And I think he's going to continue to get bigger and stronger and better. Like, I think he's got a good frame that can hold more weight as he matures. I really like him. I mean, he didn't play that great this summer. I didn't think at the Nike Skills Academy, but man, during the course of the season, he just kept getting better and better and better. And I was thoroughly impressed with him this year.
I think his skill set is extremely applicable to the style of basketball played right now in the NBA, ability to pass and shoot.
He was well coached by a guy that played in the NBA for a long time, and what I like about him, and Jay referred to it, he got better this year. He went and watched every one of his fouls last year with his coach because he was in foul trouble all the time. And he got better on the defensive end and moves his feet well. And he's also added a rip and go move from the elbow, which I think will serve him well for a guy that size.
Well, we've got Andy standing by with Wisconsin's Nigel Hayes.
All right, thank you, Mark. And he's actually been kind of razzed behind me by Frank Kaminsky and Duya Duke and his former teammates. All right, so you're on the fence. What's going to go into this decision whether or not you're going to stay in the NBA draft?
I think the biggest thing is knowing what teams like you, what teams want you. A lot of guys think that you need every team to love you in the NBA. All you need is one team because only one team drafts you. And I think for me personally, I think the floor would be definitely the first round. But there's also, you know, potential if you go in the second round, you can get to a good team, for example, a team full of veterans that you can learn a lot from, which help you develop.
So I've had a number of NBA personnel tell me that your second round are not drafted, not ready to commit to the first. What are you hearing in terms of where you could go as to whether or not that's kind of the same thing you're hearing?
I think right around there. Some teams have, you know, heard first round, late first round, heard a lot of second rounds undrafted. So it really just depends on how I do here, how the test's going, and then also in the workouts that you have with the team. So it's just about how well you can play in these next couple of weeks coming up.
So you've got a great example to our left here, Frank Kaminsky, who decided not to stay in the draft, go back to school, player of the year. You guys went and played for the national championship game. How much does that look as an example for you to potentially come back and do that at Wisconsin for your senior year?
It definitely means a lot, but again, that's definitely a Cinderella scripted story. I mean, no, Frank, that's what Frank ideally wanted the season to happen and to be like, and it almost happened. But I think for a lot of people, when they come back their senior year, they want the same thing, and it never happened. So I think the team that I have and the ability that I have as a player, I have a chance to do what Frank did that senior year, and it's definitely a chance. But again, I think I'm here now to try and figure out whether or not I'm going, and it all depends on what team's in.
All right, thanks, Nigel.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Back to you, Mark.
I think it's interesting with Nigel Hayes because this year it's like he tried to make this transition to a 3. And Fran, this gets into a bigger conversation, right? When guys come back to school and somebody says, hey, look, you're going to be a 3 in the NBA. Well, now all of a sudden I need to showcase that skill set. And I'm not saying he couldn't do it, but at times it seemed
he couldn't.
He couldn't. So and he was much better positioned in college at the 4 spot, and he was able to take advantage of that weight down low.
Yeah, some guys are really, you know, Jay, to your point, I'm watching out here. We're watching some of the best college players we've all covered the last 4 years. Marcus Page, Perry Ellis is out there. These guys are fighting for their jobs. And Nigel Hayes has been a terrific college player, but he's a 6'6.5" 4-man. Struggled to shoot at times a lot this year. Tried to play too much on the perimeter, and I think he might be better off just trying to become like one of those low post. Corliss Williamson, guy off the bench, second unit power forward. Chuck Hayes, for example, who had a fairly long NBA career. 87-55. Ellis on the drive. Got it back. I think Blue has rested their starters. Onuaku got hung, and Ellis pushing it up. Brogdon working against Baker. Good D by Baker.
Now this is part of the test for these players too. I mean, you're down 30-some points, so you're going to keep playing.
Nice move by Ron Baker for the layup.
Are you going to go out on your own and try to get yours, that kind of thing?
Brogdon from downtown. Page got the 3. Marcus Page holds the North Carolina record for 3-pointers. Had 21 points in that national title game. He made that jackknife hang in the air 3 that many of us thought at the time was the final straw.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah. Villanova had one more.
But this happens sometimes, you know, and Marcus Page was a great college basketball player. But when you start thinking about next level, I mean, does he have the size? Does he have the frame? Does he have the quickness to really compete at an elite level in the NBA, which is the point guard position? It's one of the most difficult positions to actually get your foot in the door at.
We were talking about undrafted guys before. Every guy out here is going to be on an NBA Summer League roster, even if they're not drafted. So this is not the end of the line. You go out to Las Vegas and you play well and impress people.
Further to that point, Fran, 16 of the 36 players that participated in the 5-on-5 last year here were drafted. 16 out of 36, so just for a reference point. 23 out of the 64 players invited here are seniors. Page one of them, and knocked down his second consecutive 3.
Tommy, what are you guys doing on draft night? The minute the draft ends and you got your picks done and you've only got 2, and now you're filling out your Summer League roster. You make the calls right away?
Yeah, before the draft ends, you're making calls. I mean, look, getting drafted is nice. The truth is you're better off not being drafted in a lot of ways, because then you can pick your spot. If your agent's been communicating, you can pick your spot where there might be an opportunity for your borderline skill set. Then it all comes down to opportunities. So towards the end of that draft, we're constantly working the phones and working on cutting deals to get that Summer League team put together.
We were talking about Norm Powell last year, then the impact that he made. He's now with the Raptors. But last year at both ends of the floor, he really raised a lot of eyebrows and was drafted by the Bucks. And then Masai Ujiri, the architect of the Toronto Raptors, engineering a deal to get a hold of him. And with that kind of athletic ability, it's really translated into a very successful year for a 4-year player out of UCLA.
You know, it's almost like Felder. There's some players, when you watch them, you know they have it. And his athletic ability, also his ability defensively. I mean, he's a lockdown defender for Toronto right now as well.
Yeah, they had him matched up on Dwayne Wade early in that series against the Miami Heat.
I remember last year, Jonesy, you talked about his defense here, remember? And thought that might be the entree onto a roster.
Powell was a second-round pick.
Defense is what you think of with Malcolm Brogdon as a ticket to the NBA. He's a good offensive player. He's got a very flat shot with a low release point, and I think he can become a much better shooter. But defense is where he's going to set himself apart. He's got a great maturity to his game, but he can really guard.
I think you saw him guard a lot of different players this year, Jay, in the ACC.
Guarded everybody. Right? He's the defensive player of the year in the league. But he guarded anywhere from Marcus Page. I mean, he guarded Kate Felder when they played Oakland.
Yeah. Brandon Ingram.
Yeah, he guarded anybody.
Face-up jumper off to Mark Brogdon. Kicks it out to Ellis from downtown. 3 minutes to go in the second half. Here's Page. Brogdon with a nice show and go. And got the reverse layup to fall.
That's the one thing, if you're Justin Jackson, you got to go back to Carolina next year, work on your ability to keep anybody in front of you, because I thought that was a major Achilles heel at times.
Yeah, just went for that simple fake.
Yeah.
Utah, meanwhile, with the slam. Cuts it to 40, Jay.
Not sure what the over-under was.
You know, that last play, too, for Malcolm Brogdon, that's how he has to play. He has to pick his spots offensively, still work on that jump shot. But, you know, Jay, as you alluded to, defensively, I mean, he's such a dynamic player. And he does have the ability to score in the mid-range. He may not be able to extend the offense with this deep three-point shooting, but mid-range, he'll be able to knock it down.
Maybe the only player in this draft that if you take him, he can play for you and be GM at the same time.
Smartest guy on your team.
Unbelievable young man.
Masters in public policy.
Wow.
Hey, look,
Tom, when you guys are drafting guys, as a former front office guy, when you're drafting guys, does their lineage, quote unquote, have any kind of effect, whether it's a Virginia guy, a Duke, a Stanford guy? How much does that play into the equation?
Funny how similar so many guys are. Michigan State kid, the way he plays. Marquette forever has had these, you know, sort of prototypical players. You know, you try to evaluate. You do tend to put them in buckets. Just a certain style, because the college recruiting, they're going to recruit the same kind of guy and develop them the same way. I mean, how many guards have come through the Marquette program that really had an impact through the years?
Right.
You know, there are those exceptions that way. And then you get into character and substance. You know, when you're describing this kind of kid with this kind of ability, it helps to have bright professional people in your locker room.
When you're investing tens of millions of dollars in people, I mean, ultimately, you got to vet them as well as you can, right?
No, that's true, Tom. When you have somebody that can remember defensive sets, that can remember schemes, that can remember offensive plays. I mean, tell me that's not a premium in the league. Guys that can call out different defense. Hey, they're in this. I mean, that's a high value.
Well, it's called. You need guys that are going to be pros. You know, because it is an adult professional league. And you need them to take care of their business and add value, whatever that means.
There's Bembry up court. Approaching a minute to go. Brogdon kicks it out to the wing. Knocked away, and Jackson, little room service. Got the easy one. 1 minute to play. And the lead still at 40.
You know, we're laughing, but at least they're playing.
That's true.
You know what I mean? I'm looking out there, guys are playing, you know? And some guys have really helped themselves over the course of the afternoon.
Oh, nice move and bucket.
That guy has like San Antonio, OKC.
Yep.
you know, written all over him. Playoff team.
He could also play running back for the Los Angeles Rams. What a stud.
Jumper short and a foul called. Going to go against the blue team off the miss.
There's a great story about Malcolm Brogdon that when Tony Bennett first got him on the team, Brogdon, in order to calm himself down before a game starts, he would yawn. And that would help him kind of get his nerves together. And Tony thought, at first Tony thought, what is this about? And Brogdon's mother had to call Tony Bennett and say, look, that's something he does just to kind of get himself calmed down, because he calm his nerves before a game. And throughout his 4 years, he did that. He would yawn before games. It's really kind of funny.
Tony thought he was boring the kid, huh?
It was that back line defense and that motion offense.
Yeah, so Jay Will, don't take it the wrong way that all of us were yawning when you were talking. I'm relaxing right now.
Our nerves.
I expect nothing more from you.
Dedrick Lawson out of Memphis knocks down the free throw. Lawson, a freshman who averaged 15.8 points per game.
Boy, he's so young.
What happens in the thinking of a guy like him who, Josh Pastner has gone to Georgia Tech now? Does that affect his ability or his decision to go back there to Memphis?
He was the Rookie of the Year in the American Conference. He's going to be coached by Tubby Smith next year if he goes back. Go back to school and don't take chances on being a second-round pick. And he's got his brother there and his dad's there. I expect him to be back at Memphis with Tubby, and Tubby will take him to the next stage of his development.
I think that's a great point. That's whatever the young man wants to do. This rule is perfect for Dedrick Lawson because he's getting some feedback, and then he can. I do think in his case, he should go back to Memphis, and like he's got to have a responsibility to the talent that he's got. He's got a chance, but he's one of those guys. If he goes too early, it could be a problem for him. I think he's one of those guys that could get eaten up in a D-League situation, and he's really, really young even for a freshman.
Wow, I love that. A responsibility to the talent he's got. Well put. 1 second to go, and going to play it out. Remember, the new rule is that the players can declare for the draft and then pull their names out of the draft by the 25th of May after the combine. And Andy is standing by with Roy Williams now.
All right, thank you, Mark. So, Coach, you've got a couple players that are in this game. One that's definitely in the draft because he's a senior, Marcus Paige, and one that's deciding in Justin Jackson. Let's first deal with Justin Jackson. What's going to go into his decision of whether or not he'll stay in the draft?
Well, I think how he plays here, how he feels, if he feels comfortable, how he does in all the testing, and he's a very bright kid, and at the end of this 3-day period, he'll have a much better answer than he did before. I like the fact that these kids get to try this thing.
What have you been told as to where he might land as to maybe helping him in this decision?
I haven't been told that by anybody, and I don't think he has either. Everybody's just interested in watching him play and getting a chance to interview him and see how he does.
Now, you had one player that didn't come here because he didn't get invited, and Kennedy Meeks already declared that he's coming back to Carolina. How beneficial is it for these players to find out that they're not even going to get invited here, and then they almost have no choice but to come back?
Well, I think reality is always good for everybody, and I think Kennedy needs to get his body even in better shape, become more explosive. He can have a big-time year for us next year, and then he'll be able to go and do some of these things.
So Marcus Paige here trying to get somewhere into this draft. What are you telling other NBA personnel about what he can do for teams in the NBA?
He's a fantastic person, number one, but still they want some talent too. But if he can't play in the NBA, I'm a weird dude, because I just think he was Defensive Player of the Year for us 4 years in a row. He's our best player, a great shooter. He had a 1-for-22 stretch during the middle of the season. You take that away, he shot over 40% for the year. But Andy, as you know, he can play the game.
I know you got knee surgery coming up. Outside of that, how are you feeling since losing to Villanova in that last-second shot?
Well, everybody says it's a great game, but, I always think about that last 4.7. I wish the ball hadn't gone in. I would have thought it was an even greater game. But I'm going to have surgery in about 2 weeks, and hopefully the knee will feel a heck of a lot better, and I'll be able to move around a little better on the bench.
Thanks, Roy.
Thank you, Andy.
Back to you, Mark.
All right, Andy, it looks like Roy's been getting in a little bit of golf. Got that tan working pretty good
high
with that knee surgery impending. We're going to take a short break and wrap things up and take stock of what went down today on the other side of this.
The 2016 NBA Draft Combine is brought to you by the all-new Audi A4.
What's up, Inside Steph? He's scored on me a number of times, so he's not going to score on me today.
We're going to build a Timberwolves Sunday.
If I eat this, I'll be able to jump like him. Yeah, that's where my hops come from. All right, let's do it. If you whip, I'll whip. Now that's the inside stuff. Now that is the inside stuff.
Inside Stuff with Grant and Kristen, presented by Samsung. Saturdays on NBA TV.
It is an act of aerial ferocity. Elevation meets emotion. It is the soar and the roar. Here is Russell Westbrook attacking the rim. Just one play ignites the NBA app. Video from a variety of angles, plus updated impact on score, stats, and series. If the NBA app can do all that with just one play, think what it will do with the whole playoffs. Download the free NBA app, the official app of the NBA.
They don't give you a championship. You take a championship. He showed up in a huge way.
You're not going to stop those guys. You just have to do all you can to try to contain them.
This is playoff basketball. Eyes don't lie. These guys never panic.
Imposing his will.
You get deep in the playoffs, you can never have enough scoring.
There's only one way to play, and that's to win.
This is playoff basketball. Guys putting it all on the line. They won a championship.
Folks, don't forget to join us tomorrow at 3 o'clock Eastern Time for day 2 of the NBA Draft Combine here from the Quest Gym in Chicago. Coming up, it's the closing ceremony of the Invictus Games, and that will be a little bit later in about 10 minutes as we hit the top of the hour. Guys, some final thoughts. Who are some of the people that, Fran, made an impression on you today?
The guy that stood out to me was Isaiah Whitehead. Been watching him a lot as we get ready for this combine, and he's got a unique package of being able to score the ball, and he's a terrific passer. And he's got size and strength to play in this league. Now, the thing you like about him is 6'4", can make shots, but really, he showed that he can really pass the ball, but he's done that all year. And I thought he helped himself today. I kind of hope he goes back because I think Seton Hall will be a great story next year, but teams know aware of how good he might be able to be.
Cheick Diallo, a guy that caught a lot of eyeballs today.
Yeah, Cheick Diallo is actually going to be signing a lot of checks, and he's not going back to KU. And look, and people can question his frame. You know, is he offensively going to be gifted enough to give you points down low on the block? But he showed a little bit of versatility today. Knocked down the mid-range jump shot. And look, playing with energy is a skill set in today's league, and he gives you energy every single play. If he's a rim runner, if he can block shots, if he's a defender, he can hedge hard on ball screens. He can make money in this league, and if he keeps playing like this, he could be potentially drafted in the lottery.
Jay, what'd you think?
I agree with Jay, Cheick Diallo, but the guy Robert Carter from Maryland stood out to me today, and he scored very well. He had, I think, 21 in the first ball game in this combine. And he started at Georgia Tech, then transferred to Maryland, and he's a guy that can knock down perimeter shots. He did not hesitate when he caught the ball. He was in catch-and-shoot mode right away. A little bit of pick-and-pop action. He could stretch a defense, then went down into the post and executed some moves. He rebounds. I thought he had a great day, and he answered a lot of questions as to whether he could consistently knock that shot down, and he did.
Yeah, you talked about size for position, scoring ability, energy. I'll take a finished product in Malcolm Brogdon. I mean, just seeing him out there on that floor, you can see him in an NBA locker room, fitting in with a great culture and a great team. He's aware of who and what he is. He's balanced, he's versatile, and he can guard the perimeter. You need physical stature guards, men. The guy's 23 years old, ready to go, come in and help a team right now. I guarantee you a head coach in this room thought, I will use that.
Brogdon out of Virginia has his master's degree, and Soon to be a scholar with $1, we're thinking, and let's go to Brooke.
Did you know Malcolm Brogdon is also named the president by his teammates? I mean, this is the guy that's going to be running for public office one day, you know? Never know. But wrapping up the day here with Caron Butler, and also we really appreciate your questions. Make sure you keep sending those to us, #NBA Combine. But Caron, you heard from the guys, you heard about their impressions and who left the biggest impression with them the first day. But who changed your mind?
I thought Diallo, just, being out there and watching his face-up game and seeing him maximize the touches and the opportunities in the full court, running the floor extremely well, energetic, doing a little bit of everything. He was extremely impressive.
One of the biggest challenges that maybe you found jumping from college to the NBA life, you got a lot of free time, right? How do you deal with that? How do you manage best your time so that you can continue your career and get that second contract?
You are now a professional. You are in the professional world, and you must maximize this opportunity. This is a seldom opportunity that's given to few, and being on this platform, you must engage in it. You must be consistent, and you got to maximize it. And it's going to be interesting to see how these guys respond to all this.
Solid advice from you as well as the guys. We'll be here to cover everything social for you again tomorrow. Again, send us your questions. #NBA Combine. Back to you guys at the desk.
All right, thanks a lot, Brooke and Caron. Great job there. Meanwhile, well, we saw the 5-on-5. That was the majority of the broadcast today, but a lot of what we didn't see and what we did see, the skills and the agility drills, the strength drills, and the interviews we didn't see. But the standing vertical jump, Kay Felder was the guy that actually had one of the top jumps. This is Dorian Finney-Smith, though, from Florida. Kay Felder, meanwhile, ended up with the highest max vert at 44 inches out of Oakland.
I thought that was big for Kay Felder. He played pretty well in the scrimmage, but showing that vertical was pretty impressive.
Joel Blomboy in the lane agility. Best amongst power forwards and centers.
We need to talk about him more tomorrow.
And meanwhile, Melo Trimble, the sophomore from Maryland. That's not quite him. That's Benajay out of Syracuse. Here's Trimble.
I can do this.
Mixed results for Trimble today. It was like
you
number
say
8
rupture?
in the scrimmage.
That's us getting to the refrigerator.
Hey, Jay, can you say it once? Just when a guy's
Wingspan.
Thank you. Guys,
It's happy hour.
Let's look forward to something like happy hour minutes. How much difference do you expect between days 1 and day 2 when it comes to some of these guys? What's the thought process, Jay, when you go back to your room tonight and you speak with your coach, maybe your agent, maybe the guy who's advising you moving forward to the next day?
Well, you're definitely going to speak to your agent, and your agent's definitely going to tell you, hey, look, these are the things some people found impressive today, but, in some people's cases, we need you to be more assertive tomorrow. We need you to be more aggressive. We need you to come out and make a statement. So, look, tomorrow could be a pressing day as well. There are a lot of players that when they came out here today, they're trying to feel themselves out. Troy Williams, he played at a very fast pace today. Everything was rushed. He's going to try to prove tomorrow that, hey, look, I'm deserving of being here, and I can be a top player. So you're going to see some transitions, and other players are going to try to maintain their status.
If you had a rough day, can you bounce back?
Yep.
Right. If you had a good day, can you duplicate it and do it again? Can you show that consistency of being able to match a really good performance in the next game? I mean, they play 82 games in the NBA in the regular season. You have one good game. You can't just rest on that. You got to have multiple good games.
Sure. Fran, how do you think that the new rule that is all the talk of the Combine impacted the day today? I mean, maybe we don't know everything yet, but looking forward to tomorrow, what are your thoughts on that?
It was terrific. Jay started at the beginning of the show. Was it 8 hours ago when we started?
Yesterday.
And he talked about that this is a great concept for guys to really find out where they stand with NBA teams. And we saw some guys help themselves, and I saw some guys that can go back to school next year and say, man, I got a lot out of the Combine that made me a better player coming back into my next year of college.
Interesting concept. And, of course, tomorrow we'll see 2 more games, 20 minutes apiece. We'll see some more of the agility and strength drills. And who are some of the guys, maybe, Jay, let's start and come back this way. Who are some of the guys that you're looking forward to see what they do in the next day? Maybe somebody you didn't see enough of today, want to see more from tomorrow?
I want to see Daniel Hamilton of UConn and see if, like, he's really struggled in almost every drill, agility drill. He finished near the bottom and did not perform well in the games. Can he bounce back?
Friend name?
Joe Bollenboy from Weber State, 13 rebounds a game last year.
That's all from Chicago, folks. Join us tomorrow at 3 o'clock Eastern Time for day 2 of the NBA Draft Combine. Coming up, it's the closing ceremony of the Invictus Games. For the entire gang, I'm Mark Jones saying so long from Chicago.